Testing, 1, 2.
Oh, the.
like to call to order this meeting of the Finance Committee, sitting as the Committee of the Whole. This is a continuation of the June 24th recess meeting of this committee. We have all councilors are present here at the moment, with the exception of Councilor Welton. I have been in touch with Councilor Welton. He should be here momentarily. Tonight, we are going to resume the budget discussions that commenced initially on July 17th. I'm sorry, strike that, June 17th. Towards the end of that June 17th meeting, the mayor requested some additional time to consider with the school committee feedback received during the meeting on the proposed school budget. A motion was made to return the budget proposal back to the school committee, and that motion was unanimously supported by this committee. This resulted in the school committee meeting on June 23rd. The result of that school committee meeting was a motion included in late communication 9. At this time, I'd accept a motion to receive late communication.
Move to receive late 9.
Councilors, you heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. With that as introduction, I will turn it over to the mayor, and he can involve the superintendent as he deems appropriate. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to you. Good evening, councilors. Hope everybody's doing well. I just have a couple of brief comments that I wanted to make, and then I'll turn it over with Mr. Chairman's permission, turn it over to Dr. Vidala for his brief presentation. But I just wanted to, again, recognize and thank the City Council at the last school budget meeting. I thought there was a lot of important information, a lot of questions that needed to be thought on at our school committee meeting, and I wanted to thank you for that courtesy and allowing us to bring that back to the school committee meeting. We did have the school committee meeting for the budget this past Monday, June 23rd, and after that discussion, there was the vote that was just received in late communication 9. But I just wanted to thank you for that courtesy. I'm certainly here to answer any questions regarding the budget, or if there's any particular questions, certainly I'm available to answer any of those. So with your approval, Mr. Chairman, I can turn it over to Dr. Vidala for his comments and his brief presentation.
Dr. Vidala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor McGinn. It's a pleasure to be back here in front of the City Council. I want to personally thank a number of you who I've spoken to over the past couple of days for reaching out. We've had some really good conversations, and I look forward to our collaborative work together. I want to thank school committee members Beverly Griffin Dunn and John Swanson for being here tonight, as well as school business manager Sam Rippon. We've done some good work over the past couple of days, and I'm happy to share some information. This will be the same presentation as I did on Monday. I'll do it relatively quickly. I know some of you took the time to come to that meeting, and I appreciate that as well. There's been a little bit of talk over the past few weeks about the school administration being top-heavy. I did want to address that a little bit. This is a slide from DESE's radar. There is, on your handout, there is a link on the bottom. Looks like it's cut off on the bottom of this screen. However, this shows the leadership structure of the state compared to the city of Peabody. There it is at the bottom. You can see the link. And the bottom line, the thick black line, is district administrators, followed by district instructional leaders, and then school leaders, and how we compare to the state. So you can see that Peabody is below the state average in terms of the number of administrators per student. We took a comparison to the gateway cities. Salem, Waltham, Peabody, Chelsea, Attleboro, Malden, Methuen, Revere, Everett, and Haverhill. The reason why we look at gateway cities is a number of our funding sources and grants are available to gateway cities, and we tried to pick cities that are comparable in size, so we didn't go Boston, Springfield, Worcester, or those big communities, but we tried to locally what is on the east coast of Massachusetts, and similar size. You'll notice the third column has the total district office administrators, and Peabody has the least number of central office administrators as defined by DESE, and then we have our column for superintendents there. The description is contained in your packet of what the jobs are in each district and how that is similar. Choosing the 5 districts that are most comparable to Peabody in terms of our size, you'll notice that Peabody has less administrators per 100 students than anyone in this collaborative group here. So you'll look at our district administration is significantly less than Attleboro, Chelsea, Salem, the state average, and Waltham. And this DESE radar report we could use to compare against any district in the Commonwealth. This is a tough slide to see because of the size of it. I did include a piece in your packet, but this gives us from 2019 to 2026 all of the budgets and the breakdown, and I want to thank Mr. Rippon for his work to go through each of the budgets and to look at what was budgeted over time. This slide is a little bit better in terms of seeing that. The yellow areas are administrators, so we have in FY19 we had 5 central office administrators, 10 principals, and 41 people in Unit B, and we had 489 teachers. You'll notice over time we've reduced the number of administrators by approximately 10. So we have increased central office by 1. We added an assistant superintendent, so we have 6 central office administrators. We still have 10 principals, but we've gone down to 30 members of Unit B. So in all, at the same time, we've added 53 teachers. So we have 53 more teachers, but we're supervising those teachers with 10 less administrators. This slide is also included in your packet. There's a list of 17 positions that were in the Unit B contract in 2019 that are no longer in the contract. And then to the right hand, we have A, B, C, D, E. These are 5 positions that were previously budgeted that have been reduced. So overall, we have 19 positions that have been absorbed since FY19 from Unit B into other administrators. So we are consolidating responsibilities. I have a little bit of breakdown of each position and what they're doing. You'll notice that numbers 15, 16, and 17, school psychologist, school adjustment counselor, and BCBA, or Unit A positions, we've moved them into Unit A because they work the teacher contract. And so now those positions are paid at Unit A salaries. Previously, they were receiving administrative salaries, higher salaries to do Unit A work. And so in 2020, we reached an agreement to restructure and to pay them Unit A salaries, and it saved the district a little bit of money. I also wanted to address some of the teachers that we've added, teachers and counselors over time. In FY19, we had 63 special educators. As a former special educator, I really believe in having teachers in front of students as much as we can, and we have systematically added over time special ed teachers to every school. Looks like the net gain, with the exception of the center school, because it has less students now, and the West School has the same. Every other school has gone up. You'll notice the Higgins we've increased by 8 and the high school by 4, as well as the Burke by 4. And that is because of the co-teaching programs that we're doing, adding 2 teachers in front of our special ed students to provide as much support as possible. In addition, we've added 9.4 school adjustment counselors and 2 guidance counselors, so a total of 11.4 counselors to support the mental health needs. This is something I'm really proud of in my 5 years as superintendent. I'm really grateful to the school committee for supporting those additions over time so that we can meet the needs of our students. There was a little bit of talk at the last meeting about how our schools are not meeting the needs of our students, and I wanted to look back to 2019. The accountability data from DESE looks at not just your MCAS scores, it also looks at chronic absenteeism, it looks at the rate that English learners access English and their proficiency rates, as well as graduation and dropout rates. In 2019, the last year that we have accountability data before the pandemic, we had 2 schools requiring assistance, and we only had 1 school that was in the 40 to 60 or average range in accountability. Fast forward to post-pandemic, everyone has seen a dip in MCAS scores statewide. However, after that dip, we're looking to recover. Both schools have come out of requiring assistance. both the Brown and the Burke, and we had the first School of Recognition in the history of Peabody, something we're very proud about. The center, we had a little celebration. We bought a banner for the teachers there. And of our schools, 7 of our 10 schools are in a better place than they were pre-pandemic. We certainly have more room to grow, but I think that it's worth celebrating our teachers and the work that they've done. And you'll notice that there are 3 schools who are still lagging a little bit behind, and those are our most needy schools, the Carroll, the Welch, and the high school. They're our most diverse. They were hit the hardest. Those communities were hit the hardest by the pandemic, and we're still working to get out of that. But I think overall, you see some huge gains at the Burke, 18 percentage points, 9 percentage points at the center, 9 percentage points at the south. So we're seeing a lot of growth. It's not easy to turn things around, but I attribute this to the hard work of the teachers, to the new curriculum that we've brought on. When I came in, we had a Journeys ELA curriculum from 1999. And now we have a highly qualified, a high quality instructional material across grades K through 12, and we've been implementing those new reading resources, and I think we're seeing some results. When the state talked to us pre-COVID, we were at about, our district accountability, if we look overall at the district, was at 40%. And they talked to us about creating a visual of a check mark where everyone dipped, so we went from 40 to 35, where everyone dipped a little bit in their data, and they want you to see that check mark with not only getting back to where you were, but exceeding where you were pre-pandemic. And so as a district, we were at 40 for our accountability rating, and we were the 40th percentile, and we dipped in 23 to the 35th percentile. 2023 was the first time that they gave accountability ratings post-pandemic, and then from 23 to 24, we gained 10 percentage points and exceeded where we were pre-pandemic. And with the new curriculum that we have and the work of our teachers, I feel confident that we're going to continue this trend as we move forward. So our school committee did look at the budget on Monday. I want to thank Councilor Peach for this graphic she shared with me. All she did was put the data together. She compiled the data from the budget, and she put it in a nice visual here. And I'm sure it took a bit of time to compile that data. I appreciate that. And I took this to the school committee on Monday and proposed that we move an ELL teacher from the center and one from the south and reallocate those to the Carroll and Welch, respectively, as our most needy schools. And if you think back to the slide, 2 slides ago, these are the schools that need the most support. So I support this change, and the school committee voted to make these adjustments so that the Carroll school will have an additional ELL teacher and the Welch school will have an additional ELL teacher to support the needs of those students. And the committee voted to accept that change. And the committee also voted to accept a change to increase the Higgins to 5 clusters in the 8th grade. And we'll likely need those 5 clusters in 2027, and it'll certainly give us the opportunity to reduce class size and provide more opportunities for meaningful student and staff connections. We were able to fund this by looking at 2 unfilled positions at the center school. And so we're able to reduce grade 2 and 4 to 1 teacher next year. And this was due to new information that we had received. So when we first did the budget, the projected enrollment on May 1st, when we were putting together this budget, in grade 2 we had 25 students, so a 12.5 to 1 ratio. I feel like 25 students in grade 2 was too much, but now we have 3 students who'd like to remain where they are. We're down to 22 students, and we have classes of 22 across the district, and so I think that's a reasonable number. Our class cap in grade 4 goes up to 27, so on May 1st we had 31 students, so about a 15.5 student to teacher ratio in that grade. Now we're down to 24. A number of students have decided to stay at their respective schools this year. So 1 class of 24 could help us fund these positions and make this change budget neutral. The second funding source, so those 2 positions get us about halfway. The second funding source is an offset of $150,000 in turnover savings. Sometimes we call this high out through retirements and resignations, and low in. We hire a newer teacher at a lower salary, and you can realize those cost savings. So Sam Rippon, our business manager, worked with Steve Farrell, our HR director, to look at the number of retirements and resignations, and he shared that information with Mr. Gingras, and they believe that they're able to effectively utilize this information to realize those savings and to bring back the cluster. So the school committee voted in order to do that. On page 2 of our budget book, these are the areas that will be changed. So so the green ones will see an increase, Carroll, Welch, and Higgins, and the yellow ones will see a decrease, Center and South, as we reallocate that. So I can pause there, and if there's any questions, I certainly can answer those, but these are the major changes that we've seen since the last time I presented.
Questions from the council? No questions. There being no questions, what is the, thank you. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was a great presentation, and I appreciate your time, Dr. Videla, and I appreciate the slides that you presented us with. The one slide that you showed regarding us compared to the state as far as administrative staff, I think the issue isn't necessarily how we compare to other districts. At least the phone calls I'm getting from teachers is as far as cuts go and it cuts to staff, is that, and I'll speak for myself, when we were talking last time we were here together about top heavy, it's not compared to other districts, and it's not compared to what has been done in the past. It's compared to when things have to shrink, that everybody kind of takes a pinch. And at least the perception, reality versus perception, sometimes is two completely different animals, two completely different dump trucks. But the perception from parents that I've gotten phone calls from and from staff, both from teachers as well as paras, saying, you know, they're taking hits, guidance, they're taking hits, but they didn't see anything on the administration side. Now it's also a contract year, so I don't know what the rationale or reasoning behind every single one of those phone calls, but I received a lot of them. So when you're talking about us comparing to other districts and to other things like that, in some instances I absolutely agree with you. I do think administration is important. I do think that, especially nowadays where everything has to be calculated and sent to different agencies and states, as far as documentation goes and as far as evaluations of staff. So I don't disagree with what you're saying as far as our administration goes. I'm just saying from the phone calls I'm getting that it seemed like the burden or the weight was put on teachers and guidance and direct care services, and they didn't see the impact in administration. So that's all. So that's my first comment. My second one is I did watch your school committee meeting on Monday, and my big takeaway with that was I was actually taken aback. Our job here is not to attack anybody. It's not to condescend to anybody. When we ask questions, I honestly think every single person in this room is asking them because they care. And it's coming from a position that they have questions. And if you felt attacked when you were here last time, that was never, and I'll speak for everybody, and if anybody wants to change that, that's fine. That was never anybody's intent. Our role, our job, is to oversee the budget. We were here Tuesday night until midnight. We had every administrator here in 100-degree heat, and we were asking hard questions, and we were making cuts, and there were administrators that had to stand before there and defend their own positions. So I really was taken aback when there were school committee members and saying that they had to defend you and that they felt bad for you. Sometimes I do feel bad for you. You're in an untenuous situation sometimes, You have to hear it from everybody. You have to hear it from parents, from us sitting here right now. Sometimes you're pulled like taffy and you have a lot of hats to wear. But I applaud you for doing the hard job. I applaud you for doing the hard work, and I applaud you for everything that you do for this district and everything you do for your staff and for students. So I don't want any comments that are made here tonight by any one of us, especially me. I never, ever want you to feel that it has anything to do with you personally. I think you're a good man. I think you're great at what you're trying to accomplish. If I make a comment or I have a disagreement, it's not personal whatsoever. It is strictly on what I see, what I've heard, or what's in front of me. That's it, period, the end. I never, ever want you to feel that we're attacking you or that you can't state what's on your mind, and we should never feel like we can't state what's on our mind. So I just want that out in the open. I have more, but I'll yield and I'll let the rest of the councilors speak. But I appreciate everything that you did. I do actually have one last question. So the two positions that you took away from the center to add the cluster at the Higgins, were those already transferred positions? Were those going to be new hires? What was the game plan around that? Just so I can wrap my head around money.
Sure. So, thank you. And I appreciate your comments. And I'll hold off on commenting on that. I'll answer your question directly. The two positions at the center school are unfilled positions that we had created. It's actually a grade 1 unfilled position and a grade 4 unfilled position that were not posted. So we were able to move a second grade teacher into grade 1, and we'll have one second grade teacher. So these were positions that we had reallocated, and through attrition they weren't filled. We didn't post them yet, and we were holding off until the budget was approved. So there's no loss of job or anything like that.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry, one more question, Mr. Chairman, or one more statement. As far as people reaching out, I try not to do that, to be perfectly honest with you, especially when it comes to the budget, because I'd rather it open and in front of people, to be perfectly honest with you. That's the only reason why, and I wouldn't do that with actually any department head. I'd rather have a conversation in front of the public so that, because it should be public knowledge about anything that we're doing financially. So that's the only reason why I don't necessarily reach out to either department heads or to you, Dr. Vidala, when it comes to at least the money part. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Dr. Vidala, thank you for this. I did watch the school committee meeting on Monday. I think we all did. I'll echo what Councilor Rossignol said. Nothing we do here is personal or an attack. I have never heard from more parents or teachers ever in any budget that we've done than this year, and a lot of it was thanking the City Council for asking hard questions and just kind of observing. There's so much in this budget, and I talked to you, Dr. Vidala, there's so much that we don't even see because we get there's so many funding sources for our school because we are a gateway city. And so we don't even have the full picture, and I know the school committee gets that, and that's their job, that's what they're elected to do, and I respect that. The perception for me is the reality, and I said it on Tuesday about the city budget, with the fact that we're not cutting the school budget, we're funding it more, but we had to cut positions in order to do that. And I said it to the mayor on Tuesday that we can't just cut $100,000 out of the employee, salaries for the city when we asked and we required the school to do more. So we did more in the city part. We're trying to spread the pain a little bit throughout, both sides of it. It's really hard to wrap my head around all of this simply because we get the budget so late in the year, and then we get pushed up against a wall to get this done. I think a lot of what's happened, in conversations we've had, I've asked clarifying questions. I know just from my time working for the state, that there are so many different regulations put on education, and that's why we need certain administrators, and that's why they're there. The general public doesn't know about those things. We see people in positions, and we say, well, how come there's 2 assistant superintendents, but there's no para in my kid's class? That's a valid question. There's an answer for it, but it's a valid question. And because we don't know, but if the budget process was more open and included that type of information, and we had more time to go through all of it, and we could look at every single, you say you have 6 leadership roles. That might be what DESE considers a leadership role and an admin role. I look at the budget and I can find, 8 to 10 what I would consider leadership roles or administrative roles. And whether it's, an assistant superintendent or a clerk, I mean, we looked at every single open position on the city side. So if there's an open position in your central office, can that go unfilled? And that would be taken from the budget. But those are the things that we looked at on the city side. I don't know if that was looked at on the school side. To me, I would like to see our budget process significantly change moving forward, where there's more time. There needs to be more time for the public, for the elected officials to review the budget. We've said it 100 times. I hope someone took the over, but the budget's just going to get worse next year and the year after that. We know that it's coming. We've known this was coming. It's going to get worse on the city side. It's going to get worse on the school side. And we have an obligation to provide education to the residents of Peabody. It's expensive to do that. And all of these different changes in education laws have made it even more expensive to do that. I understand that. I'm sensitive to that. I just think moving forward, we can avoid a lot of this by having more open public conversations about why positions are there, why they have to be there. A lot of the presentations are, well, this is Unit B and Unit A. I have no idea what that means. I'll be perfectly honest. I have no idea. I know they're unions. I know there's different levels. I got nothing. Someone's in Unit A, someone's in B. I don't know. But if I don't know that as a city councilor, I don't think, the parents know that either. And so to say we move this from Unit A to Unit B, I don't know what that means. I see you consolidated a lot of positions over the last 5 years, and that's great. That needs to be done. I am of the opinion that we need to find more ways, creative ways to do that. But I'm not an educator, and so at the end of the day, I will vote to fund the schools. I would just like to see more open and honest conversations publicly so that we have a better understanding of what these positions are, why they're there, why they need to be there, and then, maybe even be able to look at the grant funding and the different funding sources that the schools do get, so we know, okay, it's not only one reading specialist that's in the budget. The Carroll School doesn't just have one reading specialist with 600 kids, and then the center school has one reading specialist with 200 kids. That's not what it is, but that's what the public sees. If they're looking at this book, that's what they see. I know that there's more than one reading specialist because my kids go to the Carroll School, and I know that there's more than one because we get it through Title I grants. The public doesn't know that. So if we can somehow, moving forward, it's not going to happen tonight or this year, but for the next fiscal year, starting these conversations sooner, having the meaningful conversations with, the principals and, the administrators that run their respective buildings and what they need and what they can go without, and not doing that, in your office, which I know happens, but doing it with the school committee so that everyone can see it happen. Everyone's going to ask for the world, because that's what you do. You fight for your people. You fight for your school. No, we can't give everyone the world. I wish we could. I wish we had the money to fund everything that's needed. I wish we did. We don't, and that's the reality. So, I don't, for this year, it is what it is. Thank you for reviewing my ELL suggestion. I appreciate it. I know I am not ignorant to the fact that money can move. We do it on the city side as well, that the budget's not stagnant. I know that. But to start the year and to start the budget with it so uneven, to me, just, I didn't like it, which is why I spent a lot of time putting all those numbers into a spreadsheet, because we don't get a spreadsheet version of this. And it doesn't convert very well from PDF to Excel, even though it should. You think AI would be there by now. But I'll leave it at there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Gamache.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd first like to thank Councilor Peach for all of her work that she did. I know that the ELL was one of the main concerns that she had, and likely for most of the rest of the council, to make sure that things were evened out, and you can't even say that anymore because we don't really know the full amount. But I wanted to start by thanking her and all of her work for that program. It worked. Carroll School got what she believed was right, and we can move on for that. But that's one of the things that I wanted to address tonight, that the City Council knew that we couldn't add to the budget. But we did know that we could ask that you take it back and reappropriate within the working of the budget to answer the questions that we had, and some of the parents that spoke as well. And it's not anything to do with personalities or anything like that. It was the will of the council to ask the questions, to see if we could get you to listen and work on it. And I was there Monday night, and I think it was a very good meeting to show where these things were coming from. You answered the questions. Not everybody was happy. I mean, not everybody's going to be happy. Not everybody's going to be happy for the city side part of the budget. But we have a tough task to do this now and create some type of a position for next year's budget to be more proactive, get it a lot earlier than what we have an update in December, do these things that makes this process a lot easier next year. And it's not going to be easy. There's going to be cuts, and we all know it. We know some of the bills that are going to go up, the health and salaries and all that stuff. And as a city council, we have to approve that. So, you know, with that, we made the suggestions. Those suggestions were answered. It's not a great budget, absolutely not, but it's one that we can live with for this year. Next year's budget is going to be a different thing. But I do want to say that, you know, the questions that were asked by the City Council were answered. I'm happy with the way the budget is as far as it's presented. Do I wish we had more money? Absolutely. Everybody does, but we don't. So I'm going to support the school side of the budget tonight. I think that things worked out relatively good, and it's not an easy thing to do, so I want to thank you for the work of not only your office, but the school committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Other councilors. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Chairman McGinn. Thank you, Superintendent Vidala, for putting this together, and appreciate the hard work of the school committee to meet earlier this week and hear the feedback from the council, hear the feedback from the public, and come back with something that I think we can all feel a little better about voting forward on. I would like to address, I've been on the joint committee for the school committee and city council for a number of previous terms, and I've actually chaired it this term. I have to honestly say I haven't found it to be the most effective committee, because our time together typically isn't spent talking about budgets, where we are, projections, and I would just like to say going forward, I think a lot of the frustration shared on the council is that for many of us, this is the information is given to us and we don't have enough time to really kind of take it all in and say, okay, well, maybe if we move this or maybe if we move that. We're essentially trying to provide our best feedback within a short amount of time. I think best practice going forward would really be on that committee if we could look to have quarterly updates, budget projections, and present that back to the council so that we're not in a situation where we're looking at things in the 11th hour. And I know, that's something that I can do a better job with. I know that some of our colleagues on the school committee could do a better job with, and I would invite parents and anyone from the community to be involved in that process as well. I think that might help to defray a lot of the angst that we have and people not feeling like it's been transparent or heard throughout the course of the year. So again, I appreciate the efforts put forth, and I think next year, if we could incorporate that, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. I think Dr. Vidala would like to respond to that.
Thank you. I'm seeing a trend here, and I want to appreciate that, and I want to thank you all for that. We do offer quarterly updates. We have a quarterly update that goes out each quarter from the school business manager as a memo. It's a public record. It's received by the school committee, and I think it's a great idea that the city council should receive that. We do quarterly updates. We've been doing that since Mr. Rippon has been here, and we start our budget in January. In our budget process, we have several budget meetings on the school committee side, and we have several meetings, and I would welcome that support and that open communication. Our budget is done openly. This first budget was presented in February, and it's presented at public meetings. And when I ask for conversations and things like that between meetings, it's to create collaboration and to say, if you're looking for some data, I can compile that for you. I can put it together for you. And the council has always been collaborative and asked me questions in a curious way. Can you help me explain this? Can you tell me why? And I appreciate that, and I embrace that. And I'm feeling that tonight as well, and I know this is how we're going to work together. The information on the school side is out there, and it's out there early, and I think that we can do a really good job of working together. But those quarterly reports are there. They're public record, and they're presented at the school committee. And so, I think we can really work that out. But this budget here that was unanimously voted by the school committee began in January and was presented in February and was looked at again in March. And then in May, we had several public meetings. And all of these, are part of public record. So they're open, they're out there, they're transparent. Since I've been here as the superintendent, every one of the budgets that I've done is posted on the school website. So we can look back. That's where Mr. Rippon got all of those spreadsheets and looked at the snapshot over time. So I appreciate the council, and I'm hearing that you only had 7 days to review the budget, but I want to tell you that we're out there since January putting out our budget and working together in a public forum, and we're happy to share that with you. And I appreciate the council for bringing these things up. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Superintendent Vidala. I just want to be clear, this isn't a finger pointing or saying that you didn't do a good enough job. We all didn't do a good enough job, I think, and that's why we're here. We've never sent back a budget. We sent back a budget last week. I think we're all proactively trying to move forward in the best way. My suggestion is we do a better job collaborating next year, and that's on all of us. So I appreciate it, but thank you, Councilman McGinn.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Superintendent Vidala, for sharing all of this and scrambling and coming back. And I have to say, I'm very pleased. The atmosphere tonight is much cooler than it's been the last week or two, literally and figuratively. And I have a whole list of questions, but I think this is why I tend to go last, because my colleagues are a lot more eloquent. I think they've addressed a lot of this, and I think I have heard from a bunch of teachers and parents, and their fear is lack of transparency. And I watch almost all of your budget meetings, so I understand what's going on. And if there is a quarterly report, I didn't know that, and maybe the parents didn't know that. So this is a learning lesson for all of us, and I think this is fantastic that moving forward we can be proactive. And you have the luxury of starting in January. We have, we all fill out our June calendar knowing that we're going to be scrambling. So if we start working together earlier, I think things will. It's a tough budget for everyone, for the city, for the school. So I'm gonna hold back on any of my questions because I think you've answered a lot of it, and my colleagues have addressed a lot of things. So I just want to thank the school committee. I don't usually reach out to school committee members or the superintendent because I do like to deliberate on the floor. The only reason I talked to school committee Beverly Griffin Dunn was because I forgot my shawl at a high school meeting, so that's the only reason I talked to her, and she actually did a really good job explaining some of the administrative team and why they built it over time to support the teachers, and I think initially that's kind of what we were all looking to learn. So we've learned a lot, and I appreciate your time, and I'm gonna hold back for now from any other comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Questions or comments from any other councilors? Councilor Higgins and then Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to make some brief comments, and I don't want to reiterate stuff that's already been said, but you know, going over this budget season is super important, as all of them are, and we're looking at how we can get the most bang for our buck everywhere we invest it. And that's streets and roads, city services, but I think there may be no more important investment that this city makes than the one that we make in our children, you know, that are going through the school system. It's extremely important. I heard the parents. I sat in school committee meetings to hear their frustrations, their pain. Having raised 3 children myself, I know how important it is to see that our children are getting the best of the resources that are available to them. And as parents, we want to make sure that they get the best of everything. So it's very difficult for me to think about these cuts when it comes to, you know, student-facing faculty members. That is like one of the last places I'd like to see cuts. And there was a lot of discussion about administrative staff, top-heavy, you know, is it 6? Is it 8? Those seem like small numbers when we consider how many faculty members and teachers we have in the system. And we look at all the students that we have in the system, 6 or 8. And then I look at, you know, other areas in the budget where we can cut, and I really think the school committee, you know, works extremely hard. I think it's very difficult for them as well. They see more than we do. They hear more from the parents than we do. And so they're also probably doing exactly the same thing we are. Where can we cut? Where can we save money? How can we get more teachers in our buildings? I am the newest member of this committee, so a lot of things in the last year and a half have been new to me. And when I look at this process that we just went through, and the fact that we had a meaningful dialogue last week, I think whether people feel that it was pointed or, you know, difficult or mean-spirited, I didn't see it that way. I saw it as, you know, business-minded people that have interest in our city talking about an extremely important budget. And I think the process, you know, can it be improved? For sure, but it worked. I thought Councilor Peach raised a fantastic issue with the ELL allocation of teachers. As city councils, we don't understand the fluidity of teacher movement from class to class or building to building, so it looked like an area for improvement. I myself was very concerned about the reduction of clusters at the Higgins Middle School, going from 5 to 4. That concerned me because that's, you know, larger classroom sizes, and we all know, and we've heard from parents and other educators, that the smaller the classroom size, the better the result. So I was not really for that. I thought it was, personally, I thought it was a little short-sighted, because I feel that the grades that are coming up, that student body is going to expand. And then we're going to be in a position of going from 4 clusters to 5 clusters in a year. So I felt the process worked because I did watch the Monday night meeting, and I saw the changes that were made, the allocation of the ELL teachers. The cluster came back at the Higgins Middle School. I think that's great. I'm all for more teachers. But I still have one lingering question, and more about the process working. I did talk to a school committee member and got educated, you know, on an area that I'm about to ask a question about, and I'd like to hear from you about this one as well. I remember, you know, when my kids went through elementary school here, that I was thinking of the 8 elementary schools that we have, and we look at all we see in the budget, by the way, folks, is we see a dollar amount. We see 250,000 on average for that office, principal's office. That's the line item. There may be 2 people in there, 3 people. So naively, I thought that it's about $8 million. Business mind would say, can't we just cut that in half, save $4 million? But that ignores the purpose of the people being there. And the school committee member educated me on why that is. But I'd like to hear more about how we got there. I heard a history of it, and there was a number of, it had to do with the size of the schools that we're talking about. And there was a assistant principal position that was part-time back in the day, and I guess now it's not. And I was just curious if that's something that can be revisited. Do we need full-time assistant principals at each of the elementary schools? I'll give you a chance to respond.
Excellent question, Councilor Higgins. Thank you. So the term part-time was language that was used, but it is a little misleading because they were full-time salaries. So we were paying 8 elementary assistant principals full-time salaries. Half of those, 4 of those at our smaller schools, were in full-time teaching roles in the classroom and were also doing the assistant principal role. And as I came in post-COVID and we see the need of our students and the needs of our teachers, what we realized is one of 2 things were happening, and neither one was good. In one case, the teacher was pulled from that classroom to do their assistant principal duties, and the students were left without a teacher or someone was covering, but their teacher wasn't there because they needed to respond to something. The other thing was the teacher stayed in the classroom and taught those students all day long and was never called to do assistant principal duties. And that wasn't good for the school because they weren't getting the support. So what we did over time was we added 4 teachers. So now there's a full-time teacher, and we pulled the assistant principal out of the classroom. The assistant principal is still getting that same salary, but now they're doing more work supporting students, supporting teachers, supporting the curriculum implementation. So if we were to go back to that model, we would have to cut the teacher that we hired to be in that classroom so the assistant principal could go back to the classroom and have that part-time role, and they would have a full-time administrative salary and they would not be doing full-time work. They'd either be pulled away from their students or they would just be paid an administrative salary to do a teaching job. So the net gain was 4 teachers, and our students were able to do that. And that's sort of what has happened over time. But they were always full-time employees with full-time salaries. They just weren't able to do all of the administrative support and the leadership that they are now able to do. And now that we're implementing new curriculum and new teaching methods, they're able to be in the classrooms more. They're able to respond to more behavioral needs, more mental health needs. They're able to support bullying. There's a lot more that they're able to do now that they're not tied to a classroom. And the gain was 4 teachers in our district. And so that's what's happened over time.
Thank you for that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Higgins. Councilor Higgins, we have a couple of other late receipts. Could I count on you to make a motion to receive late 10 and late 11?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to receive late items 10 and 11.
Councilors heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Thank you, Councilor Higgins. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'll address some of the comments already made at the school committee meeting the other night. As far as late communications, Doc, that's not an offense to anybody. We've gone back and forth, whether we've refused a lot of late communications, but at times we refuse them in completion. But when we get a 150-page document as a late communication, I think that would be standard operating procedure to decline to accept that, because it's impossible for us to look at. Never mind that you had 1 copy. The second communication, I believe, was 5 pages. Even that, in the midst of a meeting, is difficult to digest. That's something that we probably need to look at in advance. So you talked about the lack of courtesy given to you. I give you the same courtesy as I would give anybody else that comes before us. We're all equal when we come before the City Council. So Anybody else in the city submitted a 150-page document to me, that's going to get refused also. But the other factor is, the procedure. There was some commentary made about being overzealous, and we're well aware of what our rights are or what our jobs are as city councilors. We can't accept your budget. We can vote no on your budget, or we can cut your budget. There doesn't say we could send it back to you. It is, we extended that courtesy at the request of the mayor, and I think most councils actually preferred it even before the mayor requested it, that maybe you heard the voices of the residents, maybe you heard the voices of the teachers, maybe you understood what we meant as far as, understanding that you need everything that you have, but where we are financially in this city, and our preferences as counselors to have forward-facing or student-facing teachers rather than administrators, which, to ask those questions to you, I don't feel like any of them were offensive. Anybody was tough on you. I've seen some councils be very, very tough. I didn't get that gist at all, to the point when I walked into that school committee meeting on Monday night, I wasn't expecting any of that. I was expecting a discussion. Other than your presentation that you just gave us, there was pretty much zero discussion from the committee itself on the top-heavy. I think Beverly Dunn did address some of it, but it was more of personal attacks rather than addressing what we had asked. So we'll get past that. We'll all work together. My question is, you presented and I had issue with this Monday night, you presented the Gateway City comparison. And I do have to say, Beverly Dunn did raise the point, and she's correct, that some of us are novices at this and jumped in the last couple of months. Yeah, I've been on this council 10 years. I've never had to put in so much work into your budget that I had to put in this year. As Councilor Peach mentioned, I fielded hundreds of phone calls, even as far as yesterday, 7 hours. I looked at my phone just to get that. It was 7 hours and 17 minutes that I spent on the phone with educators, parents, and other residents. And yeah, I had to try to learn very quickly. So up until 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, admittedly, I didn't know what a dot district was. I didn't know what accountability results were. This is learning on the fly. If we sounded, or I sounded uneducated on the subject, more than likely, you're right. I can answer question A, but you need to help me along with question B, C, and D. To that point, I do know gateway cities relatively well, and I know that gateway cities are an economic designation, not an educational designation. You do receive some grants because we are a gateway city, very few. It's not a large portion of your budget at all, but more importantly, the accountability data that you handed me in your office is basically associated with the DART districts. And the DART, just for anybody that doesn't know, is District Analysis Review Tool, which is, I watched probably 75% of your meetings, and I had never heard you mention gateway cities in the past. This was the first time that I've heard you mention a gateway city. And my honest opinion is I feel that those numbers worked best for you, so you used that chart. I think that if you went to the DART district, which you rely on DESI numbers pretty frequently in almost every presentation that you make and in every decision that you make, the Peabody, Weymouth, Leominster, Medford, Methuen, and Quincy, those are the DART district as Quincy, as DESI lists them. I see very little comparison with many of the gateway cities, Haverhill, Everett, Methuen, Malden, Attleboro, Chelsea. I don't compare us slightly. When I say, back to the economic designation, that's because we were a tannery city, and that was the economic boom in this city was because of tanneries, and Waltham was clocks, and, you know, each of these gateway cities had, you know, a set income source and a set economic center. And they lost that, and it's, you know, it's redeveloping and redefining and what that would be. I don't see the correlation with education. So yes, I felt that that was a little disingenuous to present the gateway presentation, but do you have the numbers for the DART districts as far as comparisons with?
I do tonight because I know that that was something, so I'd be happy to share it with you.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify, these are the DART districts that we would compare to. You know, and I will say, you know, this is why communication is so important, and I appreciate you bringing up this question, and fortunately I was able to put together this information. These are the DART districts. The reason why we use gateway cities is because, you know, as I look at some of these, comparing us to Westfield or Weymouth, I'm not sure that you know, is accurate, but, you know, I'm happy to do this in an effort to be transparent, and I will say that this is why communication is so important. When we sat down at the table with the teachers union, we sat, before we began, we said, what are the 10 comparable districts that we're going to look at the same contracts? And we agreed on those comparable districts, so we wouldn't be, they're looking at North Reading and we're looking at Lynn, or vice versa. So, you know, I think that's why this is important. So I picked gateway cities because we've gotten recent grants because we're a gateway city, and Salem and some of those are close. These are the DART districts, and here is the data. So you'll look again, comparing us to Somerville, I think is apples and oranges. But again, here's Peabody, you know, towards the bottom, and this dark black line representing district administration compared to our DART districts. We're below the average. We're below all of those districts, and these are the DART districts. And I think this is why collaboration and communication is so important. I'm happy to bring data to you that you want to hear. I don't want to bring data that no one wants to hear about. And so, you know, somebody said today, hey, you know, what about the DART districts? So I put this together, and I'm happy to do so. You know, I mean, we want to be transparent. We want to be collaborative. So here's the leadership structure in those same DART districts, and you'll notice that Peabody certainly is not top-heavy. We have significantly less leadership positions, district administration, district instructional leaders, and school leaders than those districts as well. And it's the great thing about this radar tool is you can compare to any district that you want.
Okay, so in these numbers and thank you for that. In these numbers, do you include administrators that are in grants?
This is based on DESI's formula, based on all of the money that we spend on students. This is how that they categorize it. I can't manipulate this information. It's all public-facing. This is all based on the end-of-year report. Every dollar that is spent on students that are in the Peabody Public Schools compared to all of these other ones. And this is how DESI represents it. So this is all the money that we spend on students in each of these communities. And we can't manipulate this information. It's all public-facing.
Okay, so actually I should probably ask you that. This is a dollar amount that we're looking at, not a...
So this is a relationship of the number of administrative positions in each of the three categories: district administrators, district instructional leaders, and school leaders per 100 students. So like Peabody down here, this is 0.1. This represents 0.1 per 100 students, or 1 per 1,000 students, where we have 6 administrators for 6,000 students. So that's how they do this. And you'll notice, you know, Somerville has, you know, a lot. The state average is 3 per 1,000 students, 3 district administrators. And then these are district-wide instructional leaders, and then these are the school leaders in the orange. That's how this is represented. And the link here at the bottom, you can go to the DESI radar tool. You can compare us to any district. They also have information about teachers, support staff, clerical. They have a lot of great information on there.
So again, you're showing 6 administrators here. So the ones 1, 2, I don't know how many, because as Council Peach, your budgets are very difficult to follow because all the information is spread out. You don't account for.
So I'm saying
ones in
that 6.
grants.
So the black bar is the district administrators. So that is our cabinet, our central office. There are 6. The other administrators either fall into the district instructional leaders, or the orange is our school leaders. So all of the administrators who receive a paycheck from the Peabody Public Schools are included in this information. They're just included in one of the 3 buckets. And so we have 6 cabinet-level administrators. Those are our district administrators. The other are curriculum directors and things like that, what I'm calling Unit B, or other district-wide instructional leaders. They're in the light gray, and our school leaders, our principals and assistant principals, are in the orange.
Okay. So I think we've gotten past that. Do you actually have a list of who is being eliminated? Not positions reduced, because I think reductions are justified, with class sizes and such. Which positions are being eliminated? Because we started off, we had a pretty good list, and you told me that wasn't your list, that was given to me that was posted online by somebody else. But I don't really know at this point where we are, what people are being eliminated, because that's one of the things we faced the other night here, is we preferred not to eliminate people. So if you can give me that data.
So we had no layoffs. We have non-renewals every year, non-professional status teachers. That happens every year as part of personnel doing business. There were no professional status teachers laid off this year. And so I can get you the list, the ins and outs from our original proposal of $104 million all the way down to the $99 million. I can get you that list. I can send it to you. We have a very detailed list that Mr. Rippon kept, and I can share that with you.
Okay, and one of the things I mentioned in the last meeting was the reading specialist at the Brown School. Was that an elimination? Was that what was, how?
It was a reassignment. The person did not lose their job. It was a reassignment. That person will still be at the Brown School supporting students next year in a different role.
Okay. As far as just one other thing I wanted to address that was pretty unfortunate, and I did talk to Beverly Dunn about it. During your presentation Monday night, a teacher was notified via your meeting that they were being changed out of a committed location that she had already received a letter of commitment from you from. And I would just ask, I think it's just an unprofessional way to do things. I don't think anybody should learn on television that their position is being moved. I would just ask the mayor and you to extend the same courtesy, that you would want, that you don't have to find out on television that your position is being moved somehow. I think, you knew prior to that meeting what you were going to present, and possibly could have had somebody reach out to that teacher. I don't know that person personally. I just can't even imagine how that felt to be watching a school committee meeting and have to find out that you had been moved to a different location than was already committed to. With that, I appreciate all your answers. I stand by where I voted the other night. I think that, as we've mentioned a dozen times, there's a fear in this council that some of these cuts that we've requested and they haven't been made, or reallocation of funds and they haven't been made, that we're going to pay the price for those shortly, and we're just delaying the inevitable. I hate to see it. I think that, yes, I'll say it over and over again, every position in this city and in your school and in your, is needed. I hope that we're all wrong, and that could be the case, but I still believe that we need to, the mayor showed some examples on Tuesday night of the treasurer's office and the collector's office, and trying to do more with less people. And again, I whether you take offense by this or not, you're the only your staff is the only ones that didn't take a reduction and didn't feel any pain in this budget, and try to consolidate. I do feel that way. I know you take issue with it, and I apologize if you do, but that is a fact that teachers were changed, positions were changed, staff reductions were made, however they were, whether they were whether they're laid off or however they were reduced. But the mayor took some hits the other night. We received some feedback about that today. And I just feel that the executive staff and the school district didn't try to help out with all of this. So I'll stay with my no vote. And then, again, I have a constituency that has asked me to stay with that no vote. And I sure do talk to a lot of people, so I'm going to stay with the way they feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Turco, in response to your questions, Dr. Vidala put up some additional information there. Can I get a motion to receive that as late 12?
Move to receive.
Councilor, you heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Dr. Vidala, could you please submit that electronically to the clerk for the record? Thank you. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Many of my questions and concerns have been addressed. I don't know, they've been asked and answered. I don't know that I'm satisfied with some of the answers, but I won't rehash them or argue them. But there are some things that haven't been touched upon. And firstly, the issue of communication. Superintendent, it is very important, but the way that it's being portrayed, in my opinion, is that it's all one-sided and that the city council were the poor communicators. And that school committee meeting, I think, was the essence of poor communication, including your behavior. And I felt it was an effort to intimidate and play the victim, that there was very poor communication. I think my colleagues have already pointed out to you that we're simply doing our jobs. This is not personal. And I would like to get back to something that hasn't been spoken, hasn't been touched upon, and that would be the appearance that there is a lot of duplicative responsibilities in the list of administrators that you did put forward, whether it's 8 to 10 to 12 to 25, I guess, tomato, tomato. So we have the Assistant Superintendent Pupil Personnel Director of Student Services and Administrators on Special Education, Assistant Superintendent of Pupil and Personnel serves as the District's 504 Coordinator and Title IX Coordinator. The Director of Student Services reports to the Assistant Superintendent of Pupil Personnel, yet oversees the 504 Coordinator and the Title IX Coordinator. The Director of, Counseling? Also coordinates the 504 responsibilities and ensures compliance with the 504, Title IX, and other civil rights regulations. So, again, I think there were plenty of other job descriptions that were listed where there does have the appearance and the perception, again, is reality, especially when you submit it to us in a document as requested, and we're able to review it. It was riddled, in a lot of people's opinion, mine included, with duplicative job responsibilities. And as the City Council asked the mayor to consolidate, we as a council had hoped that you would do that too. That was expressed repeatedly by many councilors. And it wasn't done. And what is also very obvious is that you did bring some jobs back after the council returned the budget to you in order for you to do that, and you did, and the school committee did bring back some of those jobs. And you got praise for that by some of my colleagues are praising you for that. However, you did it in finding money without consolidating or laying off or reducing any of these administrative positions. So that bothers me tremendously, along with the fact that you really didn't put in the effort to spread the pain and to consolidate and put a good faith effort to show that we're all in this together. You didn't do it. Instead, you found money that you had without consolidating or reducing those numbers. And to me, you know, we're talking about people not being happy. Nobody's going to be happy. Let's not forget the taxpayers in all this. When they open their bill with the average tax bill, that's going to be over $500. That's just the average. That means some are going to be $800, $1,200, $1,600. They're not going to be happy. And it would be a pleasure to vote to support the school budget if you had just made some effort to show that you recognize that we're all in this together and had made some sacrifice in spreading the pain in the area that this council pointed out to you, because we did listen to our constituents, each and every one, and you didn't do it. So if you found money, to me, I feel there's even more money there. You found money to keep people, and I believe there's more money there. And the taxpayers are not going to be happy when they open their tax bill. And when we get to tax classification, we're going to have to set a tax rate that pays for these decisions that we made tonight. You could have done more. You could have spread the pain. You could have put forward just a good faith effort so that we could be one city. And you didn't do that. Instead, people were attacked for doing their job in a public forum. This is public money. You're a public employee, and we do things in public. And I think you missed the mark this time around. So I will not be supporting the school budget, and I thank you.
Thank you, Council Manning Martin. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Dr. Vidala. Just going over the Gateway City comparisons that you provided tonight. Well, going back to the dark comparisons, you mentioned Westfield. I lived there for 4 years. It's where I went to school. It's very much like Peabody. They're a mill city, and they're slightly smaller than us in population, but have a lot of the same problems Peabody does, and they've done an excellent job in the last 10 years improving their city and their downtown, and they got a new high school within the last 10 years as well. So they're very, very comparable to Peabody, I will say. But looking at the structure, so we keep going back. I think I'm disagreeing that there's only 6 administrators. I know that's what DESE says. Do you know why, just looking at this, in Salem, on their list, which is much longer than ours, they have the Executive Director of Technology listed and the Executive Director of Student Support Services. We have those 2 positions in Peabody, but they're not on our central administration list. Can you just explain why?
Yeah, so there's a difference between an executive director and a director. So a director is a lower level position, and so that's how they classify it. Could be more work hours, could be part of the cabinet. So they may be members of the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. So they, as a higher level. Some places call their finance director and assistant superintendent in charge of finance. Some people call their HR director and assistant superintendent in charge of HR. And when you elevate something to assistant superintendent or executive director, it brings with it a higher salary, more responsibility, and things like that. So that's how they categorize those. Our directors are, in a union, and they're considered district-wide support staff. And so, that I'm not sure why Somerville and Salem categorize things like that, but I know they typically bring an entourage with them, to most of the meetings, and as I said, we're very thin. So I believe we're consistent with similar districts, and, there are certain outliers like Salem and Cambridge and Somerville that are very heavy. But overall, I think we do the best as we can, and we are pretty light.
Thank you. So I think that's where, and I won't speak for my colleagues, but that's where I'm coming from, is like, we keep hearing that we're a very thin administration, and that if we look at this data, we would say, yes, we are. We have 6, what DESE considers central administration, but that's only because we've moved those jobs into units. And you showed that breakdown as well, that a lot of these jobs got consolidated or moved to Unit A or Unit B, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that chart that we saw with the different shades includes all of those people.
So our chart includes all those members, and so when there's an executive director position in Salem or another community, there are those, so we have the dark black at the bottom, which was the central office. There are a number of educators and leaders in the gray that support them. So for every one of those you see in Salem, they have 2 or 3 people underneath them that are doing that work. So just to show the DART districts one more time. So when you see the executive director level positions, those are the ones in black, and the ones that are supporting them are the ones in gray. So the gray bars across those communities are also larger than ours. And so each one of those executive directors may have a clerk, may have, different instructional leaders that are working underneath them. You look at the state level, you look at Stoughton or Westfield, this gray bar is all of those, what I'm calling Unit B, or district-wide instructional leaders, or curriculum directors, and they're supporting our schools at the district level. And then the orange is the school level. So the structures are similar, but the support beneath them, these communities also have more people supporting. We have one director of teaching and learning. Most communities have one for every discipline. Director of STEM, director of science, director of English language learners, director of math, director of English. We have one director of teaching and learning, and then we have the ELL director, just because of the compliance. But you'll see that these other districts have several other administrators supporting them.
Thank you. And can you clarify, so the people in the gray, they're not in our schools? They're in
our schools on a daily basis.
But are they housed in our schools? Sure. If I wanted to find one of them, I could go to the South School, and that's where their office is?
Yeah, if you wanted to find the director of guidance, the director of athletics, those are at the high school. You wanted to find the director of teaching and learning, that's at the Higgins. And they go throughout the district during the day. They travel from building to building, but their office is in one of the schools so that they have access. And mostly the Higgins and the high school, because they're our biggest buildings, they house most of those directors, because a third of our teachers are at the high school, or a third of our teachers are at the Higgins compared to the elementary school. So a lot of those district-wide directors are at either the Higgins or the high school in terms of their home base, and then they travel. And then we have team chairs that are in every building. So our team chairs are administrators. They support the special ed staff, and we have those in our elementary schools and in our middle school. So those gray ones, they're housed in buildings, but they travel. So that's why they're considered district-wide, because they work with all of our students. And then the orange are dedicated just to one school.
So are the orange just our principals and assistant
principals? Principals and assistant principals.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there, and for the district-wide, a lot of the communication I got from teachers wasn't about, I don't get paid enough to do this, but it was about, I don't have supports in the building that maybe we used to have, or that other districts might have, or, I know especially with the 4th and 5th graders, having that co-teaching model went really well, and I understand budget constraints. It went. It was one of the first things to go. We piloted it and we got rid of it. And that is what I hear. That's what I hear from the teachers. And so I don't know if, as far, teachers get pulled to go to an IEP meeting, they get pulled to go to something else. They get pulled out of the classroom for various number of reasons, and there isn't always someone to cover them. And, or someone's out sick and we need to call a substitute in. Is there room? Is there any way, a different structure way to say these admin that are in schools, to get them in front of students more frequently, that they're part of the education process and they are student facing and they help and can support the teachers? I mean, having someone in a building is great because they're there, but if they're not accessible to the staff, if they're not there providing the supports that are needed, whether it's what they're hired to do or not, but just, I think as we all try to do more with less, having an administrator inside a building that can actually be a support to teachers, because we're having a behavioral issue in a classroom and that student doesn't have a one-to-one para yet, and so I speak about the Carroll School a lot because that's in my district and it's where my kids go to school, and I've experienced it with my own children. We have 2 administrators at the Carroll School, and it's bigger than some surrounding high schools. So, we have just as many orange as every other school in Peabody. Aside from the middle school and the high school, every other elementary school we have two orange admins. So if we can somehow be creative as we move forward, as we get creative, as we do more with less, to have some of these district leaders who I can only assume come from an educational background, have been in a classroom before, if we are providing the supports to the teachers, if we can't budget for the supports that they truly need, if we can be trying to fill some of those gaps. And I know, speaking for the Carroll School, I know that they do that. It's kind of an all hands on deck situation at that school, and they do a wonderful job with what they're given. But the complaints that I hear, the calls that I've received, again, I've never received so many calls on anything in my 4 years on the council. That's what I'm hearing. I'm not hearing complaints about I don't make enough money. It's about I don't have the supports to educate the students the way that they need to be educated. And that is where I'm coming from, that this is a very difficult budget. It's really hard to sit here and tune out all of the things that I'm getting phone calls about from parents and from teachers to say, like, please rework this. Please, there has to be something from the administration. If we're cutting teachers, why is that the first place we looked? I don't want to see anyone lose their jobs. I'm glad for you to say that there's been no layoffs, only departures for non-tenured teachers, but on a city side, I looked at unfilled positions. I don't know what you have for unfilled positions in your administration, but that is, if we can be creative and put more, even if they're admins, and putting them in classrooms so that maybe students know their names, even if they're not teachers, know who they are, and they're a friendly face because they're in the classroom enough, and not just that's someone that walks around the school and I have no idea who they are. I think that would go a long way, and it's just a way to be creative with what we have, especially as we move forward, if we don't see a turnaround in funding.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Any other councilors? Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for coming back to me. I just want to say that I don't disagree with anything that Councilors Turco and Manning Martin said, and this is really tough. My stomach's been in knots all day, but I think in my heart of hearts, the right thing to do is to move forward and find a solution in the future, because I'm afraid that denying this is just going to make the teachers and the students suffer in the year ahead. So I would like to see changes, but I am going to go ahead and support this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Procedurally, if this was to fail, what would that mean for the school budget moving forward? Through you, to you. Do you have that answer?
Yeah, I mean,
Because I looked it up.
we have 45 days to consider the budget, technically. If we go past June 30th, it sets other things in motion. We can only make non-binding recommendations to the superintendent and the school committee. We don't have the authority to do anything beyond that. The only authority we do have is to reduce the total appropriation.
Correct.
We can't shift anything within the budget. We can only reduce the total appropriation, and we would have to do that in such a way that we provide adequate funding for the school district. So in making that motion to cut the appropriation, you would have to be able to prove that you're providing adequate funding because we're required to do that under the laws of the Commonwealth. So, you know, the school committee as a legislative body has a role in this process.
I appreciate your clarification.
It's a very significant role. I just finished answering your question. You know, the City Council has a very different role in terms of approving the appropriation, and not a lot beyond that. So, you know, it's different on the school side than it is on the city side. And, you know, I think, I know most councilors understand that, appreciate that. You were a school committee person. I know you probably have an in-depth working knowledge of that as others do, but I just want you to be aware that to continue the process, ultimately, if we don't act in 45 days, it would default to the mayor's budget. So we could go around in circles for a long time and end up in the same place, or somebody, if they wanted to make a move to cut the appropriation, could do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the reason for my question is I was on the school committee. And when I was on the school committee, we would bring the budget to the city council, and we had one counselor at the time who, without even looking at it, without having discussion, without doing anything, would instantly say, I want $1 million off of this budget, without thought, without care, without discussion. Instantly, he would make that as a motion as soon as we walked in the door. And it would get voted down, luckily, because the other counselors at the time cared about the schools and wanted to see them prosper. I agree with Councilor Daigle. My stomach's been in knots all day today as well. I've had multiple discussions with many teachers, and at the end of the day, we have three options. I agree with Councilor Peach that those orange blocks should be in a different place and the black block should be in a different place, but that's our thoughts. We have no action on that. What we did have action on is what we did have action on Tuesday, and that was making cuts the way we did. This is a school committee issue. When they met on Monday and they voted to put the two teachers back at the center school, Carroll School, I apologize, and voted the cluster back at the Higgins, they could change that tomorrow. It is a fluid budget. We're making discussion points because this is what we hear and this is what we're passionate about, this is what we care about, this is the feedback that we're getting. But if our options are three, and three only: vote it up, vote it down, or cut it. I can't in good conscience cut a budget because I do think and I do value our teaching staff and I do value education in this city. Voting it down would just end up changing so many different areas that I don't want to see happen. ultimately, it is up to the superintendent and the school committee to drive education and I hope through this process and through the process of our discussions and through the process of parent feedback that there's a little bit more understanding of where everybody's coming from. So that I do think was heard, and I do think that is appreciated. So I am going to support this because I can't in good conscience cut the budget, and I can't in good conscience deny it. I think it's formulated the way I would? No. If I was on the school committee, would I have changed a few more things? Yes. It's not my role, not my responsibility. That is the superintendent, that is the school committee's. So like I said, our job is either up or down or cut. So I can't do the other two, so I'm left with supporting this. I do appreciate the conversation that we had the last time Dr. Vidala was here, because I was absolutely in a place that I was going to vote no, 100%. Through the discussions that Dr. Vidala, you had with the school committee, through listening to at least the feedback and understanding where we're coming from, I think that did help. The only reason why it actually got brought back to the school committee, in my opinion, was actually the mayor and the chairman stopped us from voting no, to be perfectly honest with you, because I do think it had the votes to be voted down. I think we're in a different place because of the changes that Dr. Vidala made. I do think it's in a different place because of the vote of the school committee. So those are my thoughts, and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Vidala.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Rajan. And just to add on to essentially the point of order that you were asking for clarification on, I am firmly of the belief that we were completely in order to take the action that we did on June 17th under the law. But again,
Mr. Chairman, can you say that again? I can't hear what you're saying.
I'm sorry. I believe we were on very firm ground to take the action that we did under the law on the June 17th, that was in order. You know, and I'll make that clear in my report to committee. But to getting back to the reality of the situation, which I think is what you were making sure everybody is embracing, and acting on the appropriations for, this is from Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 34, support of schools appropriations and recommendations, and acting on appropriations for educational costs, the city appropriating body, which is obviously us, shall vote the total amount of the appropriation requested and shall not allocate appropriations among accounts or place restrictions on any such appropriation. So that's the language of the law. Is there any other comments from the committee or council? No. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 mayor-approved total education budget in the amount of $105,962,910. So moved. I'm sorry.
Point of order, 105 million?
I'm sorry?
Did you say 105 million?
Yeah, so this includes the Essex Tech
Oh, okay.
allocation. So this is the total budget. So in the same way, on the motion, I'd accept that motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
So we have a motion on the floor from Councilor Melville. On the motion, we're voting the entire major budget section in education in the same way we did on the city side, which is why I included the Essex Tech number in there. So you heard the motion from Councilor Melville on the motion. Seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Turco,
No.
Peach,
No.
Gould,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
No.
Welton,
Yes.
Daigle,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-3.
Thank you, Dr. Bellal. We're set with you. We have some other residual items from our prior night's recessed sessions that I'd like to go to. This is item D from the June 24th agenda. Acceptance of Act, Mass General Law 59, Section 5K, property tax liability reduced in exchange for volunteer service persons over age 60. Mr. Mayor, are you going to take this, or is that going to Mr. Gingras?
I'll defer to Mr. Gingras.
Thank you. This item is a work-off program that allow homeowners to, based on minimum wage, to work off a portion of their tax bill submitted by the mayor.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I was looking at something different. I did want to make a couple brief comments on this item, if I could.
Go right
please.
ahead.
Thank you. And Mr. Gingras did mention, this is an opportunity for us, and you will recall that we've done this in the past for our veterans to give them an opportunity to lower their tax bills by doing some city work, providing some city services, most notably driving, for the veterans, driving on car trips to the VA hospitals and for some various appointments. I wanted to look at, particularly in light of the tax increase this year, to look at opportunities to do a work-off program for our senior citizens. It has yet to be developed. We are in the process of working that, and certainly I want to meet with the council on that when it is ready. But this vote is required in order to do that and implement a program in the future. And I thought this is a great opportunity for us to work together to provide some ability to allow our seniors to do some work-off program work here at City Hall potentially, or at the senior center, or some other locations, the libraries, things of that nature that could help provide a service and then provide a little bit of tax relief. I've gotten a number of cities and towns information on cities that do have this type of program, and we're looking at what might be work best for the city of Peabody. But this vote would allow us to start working on that and implement a program in the future. And again, that would be something I would bring forward to the council before anything is implemented. But I do think it's a great opportunity for us, and something that I think all of us have touched on in one time or another to maybe provide some relief for some of our seniors. And happy to give more detail on that if I can. But there are a number of communities that have it in this area and across the state. There's others that don't, but I think it's a good opportunity for Peabody to look at that and see what we could do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Questions from the committee? Councilor Turco.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I mean, obviously it's a great idea, Mayor. I'm just wondering, what's the accountability on it? Like, what if, I don't know, what if 500 residents come in, and did I miss that part? Did you address that?
Yeah, the cities and towns that I've looked at so far put a limit on it, potentially $1,000 reduction in their taxes or something like that. There is criteria that would have to be met in order to perform these type of services, to work off some of their tax bill. So it is kind of, it's going to be dependent on how we eventually want as a community structure it. We could put limits on it. We could put requirements. I think we'll have to develop that over time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Other councilors? Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the mayor. Now, who would be overseeing this project?
Yeah, I think from other communities that I've looked at, it's a combination of the finance department, certainly members of the finance department and the mayor's office, and depending on what type of, certainly if the senior center is a location, Carolyn Wynn, I remember her team would be involved in it, the library, City Hall, depending on what opportunities may exist once we create the program. Others would be brought in, but primarily it's the mayor's office and the finance department.
So, through you, Mr. Chairman, so would there be like an application process that they would be able to find either online or through your office, or there'll be applications through Carolyn Wynn's Senior Center, or?
Yeah, and that's what I would anticipate, that we would make recommendations for discussion to the council, providing opportunities, let's say at the Senior Center, City Hall, the library. There would be potentially qualifications in order to qualify for, to be able to do that, and then also potential restrictions, maximums, things like that. So it would be presented, and then we would get the word out.
I think it's fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Rossignol. Council Welton.
Thank you, Chairman McGinn. I think it's a great idea. I think it's an innovative approach. My only recommendation would be if we move forward with it, that we try to do a good job right out of the gate with tracking data, because I think perhaps this time next year we could look at it and actually see cost savings for the city. But I think it's a great idea. My only question is, are we still doing the abatements for residents that are helping to drive veterans to their medical appointments and things like that? If you could speak about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, and I can get some more information on that, but we do have a number of veterans that have that take advantage of that and help our other veterans driving to their appointments and things. But I'll probably have a number of communities. I already have a few. Beverly being the closest, they have a program that is their mayor's told me has been successful. But I can get more information on specifically on the veterans portion as well to you.
Great, thanks again. I think it's a great idea. I'd be very supportive, and I think if we get that data, we'll actually see some cost savings for the city too. So good job on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Welton. Other councilors? Seeing none. Council Rossignol, would you like to make a motion? Council Rossignol, I am going to break the bad news to you that we need to read the whole thing for the record. Promise I won't repeat that in the report out, but we need...
So read
So
through,
that's,
we're
yeah, the
from
motion
part
would
one.
be to, yeah, the motion would be to accept acceptance of Act, Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5K, property tax liability reduced in exchange for volunteer service, persons over age 60.
To volunteer and provide services to such cities or towns in exchange for such volunteer service, the city or town shall reduce the real property tax obligation of such person over the age of 60 on his tax bill, and any reduction so provided shall be in addition to any exemption or abatement to which any such person is otherwise entitled to, and no such person shall receive a rate of or before credited with more than the current minimum wage of the Commonwealth per hour for service provided pursuant to such reduction, nor shall the reduction of the real property tax bill exceed $1,500 in a given tax year. It shall be the responsibility of the city or town to maintain a record for each taxpayer, including but not limited to the number of hours of service and the total amount by which the real property tax has been reduced, and to provide a copy of such record to the assessors in order for the actual tax bill reflect the reduced rate. A copy of such record shall also be provided to the taxpayers prior to the issuance of the actual tax bill. Such cities and towns shall have the power to create local rules and procedures for implementing this section in any way consistent with the intent of this section. Keep it going. In any city or town which accepts this provision of this section, the Board of Selectmen or the town of the municipality having a town council, form of government, the town council, or the mayor with the approval of the city council, and the city may establish a program to allow persons over the age of 60 to volunteer to provide services in such city or town. In each exchange for such volunteer services, the city or town shall reduce the real property tax obligation of such person over the age of 60 on his tax bill, and any reduction so provided shall be in addition to any exemption or abatement to which any such person is otherwise entitled to, and no such person shall receive a rate of or be credited with more than the current minimum wage of the Commonwealth per hour for service provided by pursuant to such reductions, nor shall the reduction of the real property tax bill exceed $2,000 in any given year. It shall be responsible of the city or town to maintain a record for each taxpayer, including but not limited to the number of hours of service, the total amount for which the real property tax has been reduced, and to provide a copy of such record to the assessor in order the tax bill reflects the reduced rate. A copy of such record shall also be provided to the taxpayer prior to the issuance of the actual tax bill. Such cities and towns shall have the power to create local rules and procedures for implementing such sections in any way consistent with the interest of this section. In no instance shall the amount for which a person's property tax liability is reduced in exchange for the provision of services be considered income, wages, or employment from the purposes of taxation as provided in Chapter 62 for the purpose of withholding taxes as provided in Chapter 62B, for the purpose of workers' compensation as provided in Chapter 152 or any other applicable provisions of the general laws. But such person will, while providing such services, shall be considered a public employee for the purpose of Chapter 258, but such services shall be deemed employment for the purpose of unemployed insurance provided in Chapter 151A. Third paragraph, effective until January 2nd, 2024, the city or town, by voting of its legislative body subject to the charter, may adjust the exemption in this clause by 1, allowing an approved representative for persons physically unable to provide such services to the city or town, or 2, allowing the maximum reduction of the real property tax to be based on 125 volunteer service hours in a given tax year rather than $1,500. The city or town, by voting for its legislative body subject to its charter, may adjust the exemption in this clause by 1, allowing an approved representative for persons physically unable to provide such services to the city or town, or 2, allowing the maximum reduction of the real property tax to be based on 125 volunteer service hours in a given tax year rather than 2,000. So moved.
Councilors, you heard the motion. Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. You heard the motion from Councilor Rossignol on the motion. Seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Turco.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Minnie Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Next item on the agenda is transfer of funds, CPC, George Peabody Legacy Park, $100,000, CPC Open Space, $100,000, CPC Preservation Leather History Records, $5,000. Mr. Gingras.
Thank you. This request from the Community Preservation Committee is to fund the part of the development of the George Peabody Legacy Park adjacent to Brody's. And the second portion is to fund it, the $100,000 from unreserved fund balance to open space. The next item was the $5,000 for preservation of historic records at the Leather Museum.
Thank you, Mr. Gingras. Questions from the committee? Questions from, no? Council Gould. Oh, I'm sorry, Council Turco.
Thank you. Very briefly, only because this comes up all the time. Mike, could you just state for the record that, you know, where the funding is coming from for the George Peabody Park? Because I know inevitably we're going to hear that we had money to spend on a park, but not on other things in the city. So if you can just address where all that funding came from to fund this, you know, the complete list.
Sure. This request of funding comes from the Community Preservation Committee, which is a separate fund that taxpayers pay into, and then the funds are distributed by a special committee recommended to the City Council for final approval.
Right, those are specifically designated for, this is open space or historic, or both?
This particular one's open space and then historic preservation. And there's three items. There's open space, historic preservation, and community housing.
Right, and there was some additional funding beyond that, too, for some state grants that we received for this, too?
The state adds to the funding with a certain appropriation every year.
Yeah. Just if I could, Counselor, just to add to Mr. Gingras' comments, there are 2 additional state grants that are specific to the George Peabody Legacy Park. There was a $75,000 grant that was obtained by Senator Lovely in the Senate, and then a $50,000 grant that was obtained by our state representative, Tom Walsh, in the House of Representatives. So we have asked for up to $100,000 from community preservation. I don't think we're going to need that much, but this project has been funded with those additional grants from the state as well.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to transfer from account number 2700000 33021, the amount of $100,000 from Community Preservation Act Open Space to account number 270-0181158-562 2025517 in the amount of $100,000 to the Community Preservation Act George Peabody Legacy Park. Also, transfer from account number 2700000 33011 $100,000 from Community Preservation Act unreserved fund balance to account number 2700000 33021, the amount of $100,000 to Community Preservation Act open space. And lastly, I'd like to make a motion to transfer from account number 2700000 33022, the amount of $5,000 from account CPC Historic Preservation to account number 270-1811 58562 2025 000384 in the amount of $5,000 to account Community Preservation Legacy Historic Records. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion by Councilor Gould. On the motion, Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Gingras. I guess I just have a question. So you're taking $100,000 out of, and I'll just use the last 4 numbers, 33021, but you're putting $100,000 into the same account?
The order should have been changed. In other words, there's funding coming from unreserved fund balance of $100,000, the item below, going into 33021, then coming out of 33021 into an expenditure account, allowing it to be spent.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Anybody else on the motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach, Gould,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Next item on the agenda, transfer funds, transfer funds cable fund expense in an amount of $194,803.91. Mr. Gingras.
Thank you. This is our typical quarterly reimbursement back to Peabody Access Television from the payment we received from the cable company in the amount of $194,803.
Questions from the committee? Questions from other Council Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to transfer from Receipts Reserve Cable Fund, account number 270-000-33017, the amount of $194,803.91 to Cable Fund Expense, account number 270-0000-53007, again in the amount of $194,803.91. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion by Councilor Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Next item on the agenda, item F. Sorry, item G. Cable fund expense, $12,445.58 and $2,765.68. Mr. Jingras.
Again, similar to the last transfer request, instead of Comcast, this is RCN's portion for the first quarter to make the payment back to Peabody Access Television.
Questions from the committee? Seeing none, Council Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to transfer from Receipts Reserve Cable Fund Quarter 1 of 2025, account number 2700000333017, the amount of $12,445.58. And also account number 2700000333017, the amount of $2,765.68, for a total of $15,211.26. All that gets transferred to cable fund expense, account number 2700000533007, in the amount of $12,445.58, and also account number 2700000533007, in addition, $2,765.68, for a total of $15,211.26. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors heard the motion from Council Gould on the motion. Seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Turco.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould. Yes. Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
The last item on the agenda, transfer of funds, cable fund expense, in an amount of $120,000. Mr. Jingras.
This last item is the annual payment we received from Comcast for $120,000 to fund capital equipment for Peabody Access Television.
Questions from the committee? Seeing none, Council Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to transfer from Receipts Reserve Cable Fund, account number 2700000333017, in the amount of $120,000 to cable fund expense, account number 2700000533007, again in the amount of $120,000. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors heard the motion from Council Gould on the motion. Seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Turco.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
This time I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Thank you, councilors. We are adjourned.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular City Council meeting of Thursday, June 26, 2025. I'm Julie Daigle, the Ward 4 City Councilor and serving as City Council President. All councilors are present tonight. Public participation to this meeting is provided in person and remotely via the Zoom platform in accordance with Mass General Law. The Zoom link can be found on the city website. This meeting is also being recorded and televised by Peabody TV and our City Council stenographer. Please join me for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. You heard the motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. If there's no objection, before we take on the hearings, we're going to move to item 7B, various reappointments, and invite the Mayor Betancourt up to speak.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening to you. Good evening, councilors. Hope everybody's doing well. Very happy to be here today to bring forward an appointment. Briefly mentioned and introduced Sandra Howland Osgood at the budget meeting the other night, but wanted to bring her forward for an official appointment. Sandra has been working for the city of Peabody coming up on 9 years now. For about 3 years, she worked as a water treatment operator. For the past 6 years or so, she has been working as the water treatment water treatment supervisor over at the Walsh Water Treatment Plant over on Coolidge. She's done an outstanding job for us, and really over the last several months has been running our water system. Very valuable employee, and I wanted to bring her forward for the appointment as our water superintendent. There was really no one else to consider, and she's done an outstanding job, and I think she has been and will be a great asset for the city of Peabody, very knowledgeable and brings a great deal of wealth of knowledge in understanding our systems at a very high level, and wanted to bring her forward. She is here today. Would be happy to come up and say a few words, but very grateful to have Sandra leading the water department and the important services they provide to the city of Peabody. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Howland, would you like to come up and say a few words? While you're on your way, I will thank you. I think you've spent the last 3 days with us in the last 2 weeks, so thank you. We're all acquainted now.
Good evening. Drinking water is a field I have quite literally grown up in, and it's a field I care deeply for. I've not only been an employee of the city of Peabody for the past 9 years, I've been a resident since childhood, and I've chosen to raise my family here. I look forward to continuing to work for the city of Peabody and do the best that I can to provide safe drinking water for the city, and I'm happy to answer any questions for you guys if you have any.
Are there any questions among the councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Gamache, I saw Councilor Gould.
I just want to say congratulations. Thank you for being on board. Appreciate your help.
Would any councilor entertain a motion? Councilor Gamache.
Yes, at this time I move approval on the recommendation for Sandra Howland, 3 Curtis Street, Peabody, Mass. For the water superintendent, term to expire 12/31/26. It's a 2-year term. So moved.
Councilor, will you receive that as well? Receive and approve?
I'm sorry, yes, move 7B.
Thank you, sir. You heard the motion. Roll, any comments? Sorry. Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. While we're on 7B, would any councilor entertain? Councilor Gamache.
Yes, thank you. I'll continue the the nominations here. Mary Martin, 18 Conant Road, Lynn, Mass., City Auditor, term to expire 6/1/2028, 3-year term. Joseph Gagnon, 20 LeBlanc Drive, Peabody, Mass. Planning Board, term to expire 5/31/2028, 3-year term. Matt Ginzel, 17 Villa Lane, Peabody, Mass. Planning Board, 5/31/2028, 3-year term. John Ford, P.O. Box 4093, Peabody, Mass. Planning Board, term to expire 5/31/2028, excuse me, 3-year term. Roy Simos, 17 LeBlanc Drive, Planning Board, 5/31/28, 3-year term. So moved.
You heard the motion. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'd like to just take a moment to thank Mary Martin for her service and always looking to help. Whatever the problem might be, she's always there. Thank you, Mary. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Manning Martin on the motion.
Yeah, thank you. I also want to thank and commend Mary Martin. We're certainly getting our money's worth out of you this week. You've been here clocking in the hours, so we really appreciate it, and I thank you for all your help. Also, there are several members of the planning board here that have been on for several years. I know Roy Simos, John Ford, and maybe Madam Chair. Have the other two that have been mentioned been on a long time? As long as John and Roy?
I don't think as long as them, but more than one term, I believe.
Yeah, and I thank them for their service too, but I really know that Mr. Ford and Mr. Simos has just really taken on a commitment over the years and done a great job in the planning board. So I thank them for signing up for yet another 3-year term, because that is 3 years is a long term, but they've been doing so many of them, and they do a great job. I really respect the work that they do. And I thank the other gentlemen as well for signing on for a 3-year term. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Hopefully these members are all in the comfort of their own home watching and have heard that. Any other comments on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. Moving on to hearings. Hearing 4A, Class 1 Motor Vehicle License. Would the clerk please read the notice?
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, June 26, 2025, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Asbury Linfield M. LLC, DBA Mercedes-Benz Linfield, 202 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., requesting the transfer of a Class 1 motor vehicle license from Silver Star, Inc., DBA Flagship Motor Cars Commercial Vans at said 202 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.pbd-ma.gov under City Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's Office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Julie K. Daigle, City Council President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The petitioner is before the podium. Please state your name and address for the record and give us a description of what you're applying for.
Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Greg Payanessa. I'm an attorney at Aaron Fox Schiff in Boston. I'm counsel to Asbury Automotive, including Asbury Linfield M. LLC, DBA Mercedes-Benz of Linfield. I'm here seeking a transfer of a Class 1 license from Silver Star, Inc., DBA Flagship Commercial Vans, located at 202 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., to Asbury Linfield M. LLC, DBA Mercedes-Benz of Linfield. Members of the City Council, Asbury is a publicly traded automotive retail sales and service provider. It's one of the largest automotive retail sales and service providers in the United States. As of December 31st, 2024, Asbury had 152 dealerships with 198 franchises and 37 collision centers located in 14 states. Asbury is experienced in large group acquisitions such as Herb Chambers. in which it acquires many dealerships, franchises, and supporting businesses such as collision centers. Asbury acquires these large groups and continues to operate them, typically under their then given trade name. Asbury relies on local knowledge and expertise, including current employees who it seeks to retain at the groups that it acquires to make the acquisitions and continued operations seamless and successful. Asbury intends to do the same here. This allows for a smooth transition of operations for Asbury and for Asbury to maintain existing relationships in the municipalities in which they operate. As a company, Asbury works hard at being a good corporate steward of the communities in which it operates. Asbury is cognizant of and prides itself on adhering to local, state, and federal rules and regulations, and it sees itself as a partner with the communities. Asbury takes this aspect of its operations very seriously, and it looks forward to fostering a close working relationship with the City of Peabody. I was already made aware of certain issues concerning car carriers in Route 1 and concerns regarding that, and I just want to say that issues such as that will be addressed swiftly and forcefully. Asbury is very, very staunch in following the rules and regulations in the communities in which it operates. Given Asbury's history of success in such transactions such as this, we believe Asbury will be a good business partner with Peabody. So we ask that you approve issuance of the requested Class 1 license to Asbury Linfield M LLC, DBA Mercedes-Benz of Linfield. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor? Is there anyone on the Zoom platform? Seeing none. Councilor Gamache.
Yes, thank you. And as Mr. Panessa mentioned earlier, we spoke briefly before the meeting. The only issue I have is, again, parking in the breakdown lanes, and you've addressed that. So I have no further questions. Thank you.
Councilor Welton.
Thank you. Through you to Councilor Gamache or to the petitioner. I'm just curious, is the intent to continue to sell the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter vans there, or is this going to be a potentially a new... The reason I ask is I know that that's a pretty specialized client and it's not super busy over there. That's all.
The intent is to maintain the commercial van sales out of that facility. That is why it's also going by Mercedes-Benz of Linfield, because Mercedes requested that it go under that name, but that is going to continue to be the commercial van sales and service point for the dealership.
Great, thanks for clarifying that, and I have no issues, and best of luck. I know the Herb Chambers group has done quite well and has been philanthropic and good neighbor for us as well, so looking forward to welcoming you to PBD also.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors like to speak?
Move to close the public hearing.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. At this time, I move the application from Asbury Linfield M LLC, doing business as Mercedes-Benz Linfield, 202 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., requesting the transfer as a Class 1 motor vehicle license from Silver Star Inc., doing business as Flagship Motor Cars, commercial vans at said 202 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass. Move to approve. All conditions and all licenses are the same as Flagship. So move.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Turco.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to the next hearing, item 4B, zoning amendment. Would the clerk please read the notice?
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, June 26, 2025, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom, in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 40A, Section 5 of the Massachusetts General Laws, to consider amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody as follows. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Peabody as follows, that the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody entitled Zoning Ordinance 2011 as amended is hereby further amended as follows. Section 1, by amending Section 8 entitled Floodplain Overlay District and Wetlands Conservancy District. Section 2, by amending Section 8 Floodplain Overlay District and Wetlands Conservancy District as follows. 8.1 Purposes, 8.2 Applicability, 8.3 Definitions, 8.4 Floodplain Overlay District Use Regulations and Use of FEMA Maps and Supporting Studies, 8.5 Variances, 8.6 Abrogation and Greater Restriction Section, 8.7 Disclaimer of Liability, 8.8 Severability Section, 8.9 Wetlands Conservancy Use Regulations, 8.10 Construction of Use Regulations. Section 3, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. Section 4, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.pbd-ma.gov under calendar on the homepage or contact the city clerk's office. Copies of the proposed floodplain overlay district zoning amendment are available for public viewing at the city clerk's office or Office of Community Development and Planning, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., or posted on the City of Peabody website at www.pbd-ma.gov. Peabody City Council, Councilor Julie K. Daigle, City Council President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Tonight before us, we have Planner Drew Levin. We have heard this matter before the Industrial and Community Development Committee. So, Mr. Levin, if there's anything that you need to update or add to us, feel free, and then we'll open it up for public comment, and I'll turn the matter over to Councilor Peach.
Thank you. I would like just to update the board, or the council, that this item did come before the planning board at their June 5th meeting, and the planning board did vote, send a letter of recommendation, which I believe is in the packets for this evening as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this matter? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor? Is there anyone at all on the Zoom platform? Seeing none. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Madam President. And I think it was the end of May, maybe June. I don't remember. It's been a long month. ICD heard this matter with Mr. Bellavance, presented it to us. I think we made some slight changes, which are reflected in the attached document. Essentially, we have to make these changes to be within compliance, and that's it. So I'll open it up if councilors have questions or comments before we close the hearing.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. And I only picked up on this today. I mentioned it to Mr. Levin earlier. You're correct, Councilor Peach, that we did request a couple of changes. One of them got incorporated. The other one is not quite right. So I think we can advance it tonight with that same request to amend the language of Section 8.10. It's a very minor change, but it should read, in the event that there is a conflict between the use regulations contained in sections 8.4 through 8.8 and section 8.9, the most restrictive regulation shall prevail and control. And just on that, I confirmed Mr. Bellavance's agreement with that, both before the meeting, which I believe was Thursday, May 29th, I think was the date you were looking for. And he stated his agreement with that during the committee meeting as well. So I think we're in full agreement that we just need to make that minor tweak to that last statement. And otherwise, I'm totally fine with advancing this. Thank you.
Councilor Peach, are you okay with making that adjustment tonight?
Yes,
Could you hear that?
Madam President, to Councilor McGinn, you said it was section 8.10. It should state contained in section 8.4 through 8.8.
Yeah, I mean, basically the sections were reordered when he redid this, and this conflict language needed to be adjusted to reflect the section number changes. So again, it should read, in the event that there is a conflict between use regulations contained in sections 8.4 through 8.8 and section 8.9, the most restrictive regulation shall prevail and control.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Are you all set otherwise? Mr. Levin, are you clear with that correction? Councilor Turco.
Thank you. I don't recall whether this was asked previously, but Drew, do you happen to know offhand how many households in Peabody this will affect? And beyond that, do you know if they've been notified that they may need flood insurance at this point? I'm not going to hold you. I know you're standing in, so.
So the number of homes, I do not know that number off the top of my head. We could probably get that for you, though, if need be.
Okay, and as far as notifications, do you know if anybody's been notified, or is this something that's going to pop up in the next week or two, that people will begin to get notification from their insurance carriers? Or
As in regards to notification, I believe this is really to help if you need flood insurance, you would know if you would need the flood insurance or not. This just opens up another possibility for flood insurance for you to get.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Any other councilors? Seeing none. Councilor Peach.
Motion to close the public hearing?
You heard the motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Madam President. Before I make the motion through you to the clerk, do I just read the summary page as you did? Thank you. All right. So I make a motion to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody entitled Zoning Ordinance 2011 as amended, is hereby further amended as follows. Section 1 by amending Section 8 entitled Floodplain Overlay District and Wetlands Conservancy District. Section 2 by amending Section 8 Floodplain Overlay District and Wetlands Conservancy District as follows. 8.1 Purposes, 8.2 Applicability, 8.3 Definitions, 8.4 Floodplain Overlay District Use Regulations and Use of FEMA Maps and Supporting Studies, 8.5 Variances, 8.6 Abrogation and Greater Restriction Section, 8.7 Disclaimer of Liability, 8.8 Severability Section, 8.9 Wetlands Conservancy Use Regulations, 8.10 Construction of Use Regulations, with the amendment that it would state, in the event there's a conflict between the use regulations contained in Section 8.4 through 8.8 and Section 8.9, the most restrictive regulation shall prevail and control. Section 3, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewithin are hereby repealed. Section 4, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. So moved. And I believe that's, we already advertised this through the chair to the clerk. This has already been advertised, so this is just a vote to adopt.
And we'll include that correction.
With the correction.
As amended.
As amended, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilor Peach. Any discussion? Seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Turco.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould. Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you, Drew. Have a great night.
Thank you. I'd just like to add about the planning board. Mr. Gagnon and Mr. Ginzali have been on this planning board now for, I believe, both over 7 years, as long as I've been on it as well. And reiterate everything that said. The planning board does a really great job, and each member of there brings a great expertise to the city. So the kind words go a long way, so thank you.
Thank you for adding that.
Thank you, Mr. Levin. Moving on to reports of committees. Finance Committee, Councilor McGinn reporting on June 17th, June 24th, and June 26th. You're back in the spotlight.
Thank you, Madam President. The Finance Committee, sitting as the Committee of the Whole, met on June 17th, recessed and met again on June 24th, recessed and met again earlier this evening on June 26th. All councilors were present for all three meetings. We were also joined at various times by other elected officials, including school committee members Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn, Joe Amico, Jared Hockman, John Swanson. We were also joined at times by Library Trustees Ann Quinn, Katrina Vasallo, Stacy Dolan, and we were also joined at times by members of our state legislative delegation, Representative Walsh and Senator Lovely. Meeting scheduling was complicated a bit this year with the Juneteenth federal holiday falling on June 19th and June 24th aligning with the last day of classes. Taking these factors into account, the education portion of the budget was considered prior to the city side of the budget. The city budget, including the school portion of the budget, was presented by His Honor the Mayor and the Director of Finance and the school superintendent. The auditor and the department heads or their designees were available to help address questions from the City Council, of which there were many. Through these meetings, there were several late communications received that I would now like to move be formally received. Move to receive late communications 1 through 12. So moved.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. While the committee was not conducting a public hearing, several individuals sought to address the committee, which was permitted. Towards the end of the June 17th meeting, the mayor requested some additional time to consider with the school committee feedback received during the meeting on the proposed school budget. A motion was made to return the budget proposal back to the school committee. As chair, I ruled that motion in order. It is clear that the City Council does not have the authority to increase the school budget or allocate appropriations among accounts or place any restrictions on appropriations. However, I believe Mass General Law 71, Section 34 broadly covered this action by the City Council. Section 34 is titled Support of Schools, Appropriations and Recommendations. Under Section 34, the City Council is the appropriating body. Section 34 states, the city or town appropriating body may make non-binding monetary recommendations to increase or decrease certain items allocating such appropriations. The motion to return the budget proposal back to the school committee was unanimously supported by the committee. This resulted in a school committee meeting on June 23rd to consider such non-binding monetary recommendations. The result of that school committee meeting was a motion included in late communication 9, which we just received a moment ago. On June 26th, the review of the school budget continued, led off by a presentation by the superintendent of schools. After the questions and debate that ensued, a motion was made to approve the total education budget, which included the city's education budget and the Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School Assessment. That motion was successful. On June 24th, the city side of the budget was considered. This June 24th portion of the meeting went quite late, and a motion was made to continue the City Council business past 11 p.m. in accordance with Section 14B of the Rules of Order of the City Council of the City of Peabody, and that motion carried unanimously. During the meeting, each major section of the city budget was considered individually. These were general government, public safety, public services, council on aging, human services, excluding council on aging, culture and recreation, debt service, and employee benefits. The Council on Aging budget was voted separately from Human Services because of Councilor Melville's recusal. As each major section was considered and debated by councilors, 10 motions were made to reduce specific line items. 5 of those motions were successful. Of the 5, five of those motions failed. Where the motions were successful, the impacted adjustments were made to the appropriate department and major section proposed total budget. Upon making these adjustments, each major section of the city budget was voted individually, and all such motions passed. An aggregation of the individual motions for each major section of the budget is the full fiscal 2026 budget for the City of Peabody, which I now put to the council for a final vote with the following motion. Move that the City Council of the City of Peabody approve and adopt the fiscal year 2026 City of Peabody budget as submitted by His Honor the Mayor and further amended by the City Council in the amount of $207,868,341 as follows. Total personnel services, $156,605,786. Total operating expenses, $51,262,555 for a total budget of $207,868,341. So moved, Madam President.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach,
Excuse me, my apologies, no.
Peach,
No.
Gould,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
No.
Welton,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-3.
Thank you. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. Budgets for the Water and Sewer Enterprise and Recreation Enterprise presented by the City Auditor and reviewed by the committee. Councilors' questions regarding the enterprises were addressed by the administration and the enterprise staff. Motions were made to approve each enterprise individually, and both motions passed. I now bring those two motions forward for a final vote. Move that, in accordance with the provisions of Section 53F and a half of Chapter 44 of Mass General Law, the City Council of the City of Peabody approve and adopt the fiscal year 2026 Water and Sewer Enterprise budget as submitted by His Honor the Mayor in an amount of $21,961,000 as follows. Total personnel services, $4,732,414. Total operating expenses, $17,228,586 for a total of $21,961,000. So moved, Madam President.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. Move that, in accordance with the provisions of Section 53F and a half of Chapter 44 of the Mass General Laws, the City Council of the City of Peabody approve and adopt fiscal year 2026 recreation enterprise, which includes the McVan O'Keefe Memorial Skating Rink and Meadow Golf Course budgets, as submitted by His Honor the Mayor in an amount of $2,961,000 as follows. Total personnel services, $1,408,187. Total operating expenses, $1,552,813 for a total budget of $2,961,000. So moved.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank the mayor and his staff for the presentation and the preparation that went into the budget and how it was presented. I'd specifically like to thank the Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras, and the Auditor, Ms. Martin, for their clear understanding of the details and highly professional support of this process. I know from experience, councilors typically come away believing they were provided with thorough answers to their questions, and we are very fortunate to have you in your respective positions. There were 6 other items on our agenda. The first was a transfer request needed to adjust various fiscal 2025 budget payroll and expense accounts between departments, along with free cash to balance and close fiscal 25 operating budget. Similar transfers were requested to close out the enterprises for fiscal 2025. This request was presented by the Director of Finance and resulted in a motion by Councilor Gamache. That motion was passed by a 10-0 vote, and I will now make that motion as follows. Move to approve city budget payroll accounts, various funding accounts in accordance with the detail attached to the communication from His Honor the Mayor dated May 29th, 2025, in an amount of $258,900, and city budget expense accounts, also with the detail provided in the attachment to the same communication from His Honor the Mayor dated May 29th, 2025, in an amount of $390,500, and unreserved fund balance free cash in an amount of $1,960,000 for a total of $2,609,400, transferring from those accounts to department payroll accounts with the detail contained in the attachment to the communication from His Honor the Mayor dated May 29th, 2025, in an amount of $1,423,900, and department expenses, also with the detail contained in the communication from His Honor the Mayor dated May 29th, 2025, in an amount of $1,185,500, for a total of $2,609,400. Again, Madam President, that passed at the committee for a vote of 10-0, and I now bring that for final approval by the full council. So moved.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache. Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. The next item on the agenda was a request to accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5K, which allows for property tax liability reduction in exchange for volunteer services from persons over age 60. This was presented to the committee by Mr. Gingras and the mayor. There were a number of questions on this that were addressed by the mayor, and there was a successful motion made by Councilor Rozignol, and this is a very lengthy motion that was made by Councilor Rozignol. We have the text of that available on the record from the committee meeting, so therefore I am going to abbreviate the motion made by Councilor Rozignol as follows. Move to accept the act, move acceptance of the act, Mass General Law 59, Section 5K, property tax liability reduced in exchange for volunteer services, persons over age 60, as read in committee. So moved.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. Councilor McGinn, before I turn it back to you, on item 7C, the enterprise funds, recreation and water and
Yes,
sewer.
yes, yes. Thank you.
planning
Yes,
on doing that? I
yes.
know there's a
Thank you.
method.
Good catch. Thank you, Madam President. Yes, we do need to circle back to item C. I neglected to capture 2 additional transfers there. Again, these motions were made by Councilor Gould. They were supported unanimously. The next motion would be move approval of the transfer request, recreation enterprise, various funding accounts, which with the detail provided in the communication from His Honor the Mayor dated May 29th, 2025, in an amount of $48,000 to various payroll expense accounts, again, in accordance with the detail provided attached to the communication from Rosanna the Mayor dated May 29th, 2025, in an amount of $48,000, and to transfer from the Water and Sewer Enterprise various funding accounts in accordance with the detail provided attached to the communication from Rosanna the Mayor dated May 29th, 2025, in an amount of $686,000 to various expense accounts, also with the detail provided in the attached to the communication provided by His Honor the Mayor dated May 29, 2025, in an equal amount of $686,000. Again, Madam President, those motions passed the committee. These occurred on Tuesday night, and they were approved by a vote of 10-0, and I now bring them for consideration, final consideration by the council. Thank you, Madam President. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. Back to Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. The next item on the agenda was a CPC transfer request. This was presented by the Director of Finance and the Mayor and resulted in the following motion by Councilor Gould. Move to approve transfer request from account number 270-0000-33021, an amount of $100,000, Community Preservation Act Open Space, to account number 270-018-11-58562-2025-517, Community Preservation Act George Peabody Legacy Park, in an amount of $100,000, and approve the transfer from account number 270-000-33011, Community Preservation Act Unreserved Fund Balance, in an amount of $100,000, to account number 270-000-33021, Community Preservation Act Open Space, in an amount of $100,000, and further to approve the transfer request from account number 270-000-33022, CPC Historic Preservation, an amount of $5,000, to account number 270-1811-58563-2025-000384, CPC Preservation Leather History Records, in an amount of $5,000. Madam President, that passed the committee unanimously, and I now bring it for final action. The full council so moved.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. The final three items on the agenda were routine cable fund transfers that the council deals with either quarterly or on an annual basis. These were presented to us individually by Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras. Each of these passed the committee unanimously, and the motions are as follows. Move to approve transfer request, receipts reserve, cable fund, account number 270-000-33017, in an amount of $194,803.91, to cable fund expense, account number 270-000-53007, in an amount of $194,803.91. So moved, Madam President.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. Counselor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. Next motion was to approve the transfer request, receipts reserve cable fund, quarter 1, 2025, account number 270-000003317, in an amount of $12,445.58, and account number 270-000003317, in an amount of $2,765.68, for a total amount of $15,211.26, to cable fund expense, account number 270-00000530007, in an amount of $12,445.58, and account number 270-00000530007, in an amount of $2,765.68, for a total amount of $15,211.26. Again, Madam President, that passed the committee unanimously. I now bring it for final action. The full council so moved.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. Counselor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. And the final motion was to approve the transfer request, receipts reserve cable fund, account number 270-00000330017, an amount of $120,000, to cable fund expense, $270,000, account number 270-00000530007, an amount of $120,000. So moved, Madam President.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. Counselor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. That completes the report of committee.
Thank you, Counselor McGinn. I think I can speak for all of us when in saying that we appreciate all of the work that you spent for this budget season. You're very organized and thorough, and I'm sure you spent hours and hours and hours, so that does not go unnoticed by anyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
Moving on to motions, orders, and resolutions. Counselor Turco.
Yes, I have two motions. The first motion would be motion to refer the discussion of adding a quarterly fee for water billing as well as a final read fee, and to also review all current fees for water billing. And I'm going to refer that, I'm going to defer to Councilor McGinn. I could refer it to Public Services, or do you think that's a Finance referral? Finance? I'll refer that to Finance and invite Mr. Politz, Mary Martin, Mike Gingrich, and Janice Servilas from Water Billing to that discussion. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Counselor Turco.
Thank you, Madam President. Motion to request that the Social Services Department present an update on the department activities and also include any overdose numbers for the city of Peabody in that presentation. And that would be before the Human Services Committee.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Counselor Turco.
No further motions.
Thank you. Counselor Peach.
Thank you, Madam President. No motions this evening, but I do want to remind everyone this is our last meeting before the 4th of July, coming up quick. Next week on July 4th, which is hard to believe it's next week, Ward 3 will be celebrating at Connolly Park, AKA the Carroll School Park, starting at 9:30 until around noon. We will have everything we've seen in previous years. Our patriotic parade, decorate your bikes and your wagons, our races, which the kids love, and we have a face painter, plenty of food and treats for everyone. This is a completely free event sponsored by the city. In addition, new in Ward 3 this year are the Dancing Witches of Old Salem, and we're very excited to have them at Connolly Park in their 4th of July garb, where they'll be performing and teaching kids their dances with their brooms, and just overall having a great festive time. So come on down. If you have nothing else to do next Friday, the weather looks beautiful. I would love any volunteers. I'll be there around 7 a.m. And if you'd like to come on down, just show up, and I'm sure there will be something for you to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peach. Councillor Gould.
No motions, Madam President.
Thank you. Councillor Gamache.
Yes, under suspension of the rules, I'd like to go to 8A. That's communication for the previous public hearing we had earlier, so moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
I'd also go to 9A under suspension of the rules. Taxi driver license, John Marley, license number 16, so moved. All papers being in order.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councillor Gamache, can we go back to item 8A? We need to approve the transfer.
Move to approve, well, okay, yeah, move to approve the transfer under 8A.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Back to you, Councillor Gamache.
Under suspension of rules, 9B, Care Dimensions, 75 Sylvan Street, Danvers, Mass. Move approval, all papers being in order.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councillor Gamache.
Item 10, under suspension of rule, ready for council adoption, an ordinance amending Section 18-20, Paragraph 15, entitled Schedule of Compensation for Part-Time Positions of the Code of the City of Peabody, Poll Worker Compensation. Move approval.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilors Turco.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache. Higgins.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rosignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councillor Gamache.
Yes, I just would also like to invite all the Ward 5 residents to Ross Park next Friday, 9 a.m. to noon. We have the same things that we've had every year, the games. There's a few additions that I'm not going to let the rest of the council know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamache. Councillor Manning Martin.
No motions, thank you.
Councillor Higgins. Just making sure you're paying attention, everyone.
Thank you, Madam President. I do have a motion for this evening. I would like to make a motion to have the crosswalks painted at the intersection of Lake Street and Lowell Street. That motion would be for DPS to repaint those crosswalks. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councillor Higgins.
Yes. Yes, hard to believe that the 4th of July is next week, and we have our annual celebration at Symphony Park starting at 9 a.m., ending at 12. We'll have bounce houses, foot races. We'll conclude with our famous egg toss challenge. Looking forward to seeing everyone out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins, and I apologize. Councillor Manning Martin, I think you're all set.
Yeah, I didn't come up with any in that amount of time.
Councillor Welton.
Thank you, Madam President. Also, as a reminder, 4th of July, Ward 1 will be having its annual 4th of July celebration. We will not have Witches from Salem, although that sounds like a wonderful time, Councilor Peach. We will have our limited edition South Peabody Wear Number 1 t-shirts, only available to the first 300 people who show up. We'll also have hamburgers at 10 in the morning, compliments of our friends who donate every year, Bertolino, but also Sergeant Jim Harkins. If anyone would like to make a donation, this is a free event for everybody, but at the barbecue truck, we will have something out for Cops for Kids with Cancer, which Sergeant Harkins and many of our friends from the police department support each year. So if you would like to make a contribution, you can do it there. Also, we will have Treadwell's ice cream, courtesy of Councilor Gould. Thank you very much, Councilor Gould. So hopefully you all can attend, and love to see you there. And I don't have any other motions this evening. I just would like to say, I'd like to say that I'd like to make a motion, accept 10B. So moved. Oh, jeez. Oh, my apologies. Ready for council adoption, item 10B, an ordinance to include a sign for parking prohibited handicap zone at 75 Fairview Avenue. So moved.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Turco.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Benning Martin. Welton.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you.
No further motions. I just would like to, again, thank Councilor McGinn for his hard work with the budget and thank all of my colleagues. We might not agree all the time, but we're able to do so cordially, which I think is, which is quite the skill, and appreciate everyone's hard work to get through that budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Councilor McGinn, if you have any voice left.
Thank you, Madam President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 7A. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
Thank you, Madam President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8B. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8C and approve the special event application with the following conditions. That the applicant, Juliana Rosario, make herself known to the Peabody Police Detail Officer as a point of contact for the Azarian Brotherhood of the Holy Ghost should any issues arrive, and that as a representative of the Azarian Brotherhood of the Holy Ghost, Ms. Rosario will address any such complaints in a timely fashion, that the stage be oriented in such a way that the volume be set to minimize noise impact on residential and business neighbors. All entertainment shall promptly cease at 11 p.m. on July 18th and 19th and 10 p.m. on July 20th. Before the event, a fire department inspection shall be required for the use of temporary tents and outdoor cooking for the outdoor cooking operation. And the property owner must provide adequate number of covered receptacles to allow for the storage of garbage and rubbish in a manner so as not to attract pests or create nuisances for abutters. Madam President, on the motion, this is an annual outdoor event that the Azorian Brotherhood does. These are the same conditions that we put on each time. So moved.
You heard the motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. Move to draft and advertise an amendment to Section 19-94 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Peabody to add Aborn Street northwesterly side from the utility pole on the easterly side of the curb cut for 84 Aborn Street to a point 33 feet westerly from such utility pole. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, in Ward 2, we will also be celebrating Independence Day. I have here with me this evening this very festive red, white, and blue flyer. It's very nicely done, and it's in multiple languages. We have Spanish and Portuguese on here as well as English, so no excuse for anybody to not be able to understand. If there's others that need interpreters, I'd be happy to make those arrangements. We will have music. We will have field games, as Councilor Peach said. That's always a crowd pleaser. Folks, we will have pony rides like we always do. We will have pony rides. I know this bothered Councilor Turco before. He had some concerns about the ponies. Councilor Turco, I want to assure you that they are well taken care of and they will have as much fun at the event as the children will. We will have a balloon artist, face painting. We will have this one, Councilor Manning Martin, I know is one of your favorites, the misting tent. This keeps the crowd cool on a warm day. And I know you've experienced this. We do have a problem sometimes with sometimes the children will get their face painted and then they'll go into the misting tent, and I think you said it looked like a Alice Cooper situation there or something. I don't know. So you need to sequence that properly, but the misting tent looked like you were going to make a comment on that.
It's wonderful.
It's wonderful. It is wonderful.
We needed one of those here the other night for budget.
We probably could have made that arrangement had that been suggested, yes. We're going to have the fire truck there. We're going to have the McGruff, the crime dog, I think, is going to stop by, which is great. And we are going to have a photo booth. We're going to be able to play at the playground. We will also have Treadwell's ice cream. Thank you to the generosity of Councilor Gould. So it's going to be a great time. It's Friday, July 4th, from 9 a.m. to noon at O'Connell Park. This is behind the Wells School, for anybody that's unfamiliar with that. We're going to start with a patriotic parade. Bring your decorated bike, your baby carriage, your scooter, register in front of the school. There's going to be a free raffle. There's been some very generous donations to the free raffle, and that's going to be available to all. So come one, come all, celebrate. Friday morning, the weather report looks phenomenal, by the way. Have we looked at the long range? Yes, people are crossing their fingers. They feel good about that. We're going to celebrate the 4th of July in Ward 2. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. That is going to be tough to beat. I'm going to jump over and defer to Councilor Gould for a minute.
On the motion, I still say the dancing witches have it over everything you've got.
All right.
You know, ever since we made the adjustment with Dondo there's been a bit of attitude from I don't know what else to, you know what that means.
Are you good, Councilor Gould, on the motion? Okay. Oh, Councilor Turco.
I just wanted to inquire with Councilman McGinn if these are Arabian ponies, because it's going to be about 85 degrees out on the 4th of July, so just be cautious with the ponies.
Yeah, I can't speak specifically to their pedigree, is that the right term? But yeah, there was a suggestion made to perhaps go with a different animal this year, but the ponies, they're backed by popular demand.
Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Madam President. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 8D and send to legal affairs. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Madam President. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 9C and approve all papers being in order. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Rossignol.
No further motions, but I will see everybody at the 4th of July celebrations throughout the city. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Melville.
I think we got everything, and all right, we do. So I just want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July. And Councilman, again, great job again on the budget, and that was a marathon the other night. So Sharon, that's not easy. So great job as always. No further.
Thank you,
motions.
Councilor Melville.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. I have no motions. Before I invite everyone to the Ward 4 party, I do want to let the council know that from the clerk, your packets will be delivered on the 3rd due to the 4th of July holiday next week. But everyone in the city is invited to the Ward 4 party at Emerson Park at 9 a.m. We have everything that was described before, except there are no pony rides, no Dondo, no witches. We do have trees. We don't have misting tents, but I was afraid I needed permits for everything else. So please come. I would like to thank all of our sponsors. We've got Treadwell's Ice Cream. Bertolino Foods is very generous. The Salem Country Club is generous. It should be a great family day. Everything is free. So all are welcome, and I hope everyone has a safe holiday weekend. And I'm going to jump to Councilor McGinn. I'm sorry, Gamache, before we adjourn.
Yes, on behalf of the ward councilors, I'm asking that all the councilors at large come out and give us a hand. You know, the ward councilors do a lot of work to do this, and This will be my 28th time, and I think I've seen one at-large counselor in 28 years, so maybe we can see.
Take the hint. Take the hint, Counselor. We're at other ward
okay.
parties.
Come west of 128, you'll see what it's like. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.